We are live. Yes. Okay. We got Pierre. He's speaking. He's looking down right now. He's speaking. And then there's an announcement by Carney. And then, of course, question period. So the next hour we have basically booked. He speaks for about 20 minutes, Pierre, and about the same amount of time. I've skipped, sorry, for you French lovers. But I skipped to the beginning of the English for the, singulars. And he goes on to a speech, and it's kind of basically summing up his last 2 weeks of argument, or against the liberal rule. They're putting the Conservatives are upset about some type of military policing bill. They're saying that the Liberals didn't add as much as the Conservatives, the NDP, and the Bloc apparently wanted into the bill. Hopefully it works out well. Everything, and Pierre has that other thing. I imagine because both of them are going to put a song in the background. Hopefully it's not too loud. Hopefully that this means because the two announcements that we'll see Carney and Pierre in question period. That's nice. It was pretty heated a little bit yesterday. Until the Liberals start doing some real spending on big projects or something like that, or the Conservatives find something, that some minister did by, mistake. They're gonna have a tough time. But the trade is definitely the big talk. Oh, that didn't go on long, eh? What about this one? Is this one longer? There we go. So yeah, Pierre's speaking. It's almost like a non-news day today. When I looked at the news, it just seemed, jeez. I got talk to text going, and it's going. I'm trying to pull up CBC. It's going haywire. But there's been talk Pierre is in trouble, but I don't think so. There's no one there. No one's ready to take Pierre's spot. I think, he stumbled, well, you shall fall. It just, a meteor struck. Oh, okay, this is over. Carney says lifting the U.S. liquor ban depends on Trump. Ending his assault on steel, autos, and lumber. I think the deal's coming soon. I think with Canada especially, we've been very, it's a bit loud. Canada has been very good partners in business with the States. A lot of Canadian companies are American-owned. I think it's a very high percentage. I'm not going to quote it, but, so they have a lot of interest. I imagine it's the same with Mexico, but I imagine there's a lot of mutual interest. I understand what Trump is looking for is help for the working class, not the business class. Though those people have weight, right? And time has gone on. America has shifted quite a bit. Some of the tariffs they have to pay back. Not all of them. The media gives you that they got to pay them all back. No, they don't got to pay them all back. They got to pay. I think it's quite a bit though. $130 billion. If the company signs up and asks for the money back. And would you, with Trump at the at the lead? It'd be scary. I'd have to be a big company, and I'd try to discuss it with someone first. Can we have or unless you're a little company, you know what I mean, and you really need that dollar. But let's listen to Pierre. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and comment as you like. Here is Pierre.
Il veut éviter que la réalité entre en collision avec ses illusions. Il sait qu'il avait tort sur toutes les questions économiques depuis une décennie. Il avait tort sur la taxe carbone, sur les véhicules électriques, sur les pipelines, sur l'inflation pendant le COVID, sur l'impression de l'argent. M. Carney a tort sur toutes les grandes questions de l'économie depuis une décennie. Et c'est pour ça qu'il ne veut pas répondre aux questions. By contrast, now in English, as Canadians, we want stronger take-home pay, safer streets, solid borders, in a self-reliant Canada. We want to restore the promise of this country where anyone who works hard gets affordable food and homes, gets to live on a safe street and own a house. We want to free up money for this affordable Canada by cutting corporate welfare, bureaucracy, consultants, foreign aid, handouts to fake and phony refugees. All of this would help bring down deficits, taxes, and inflation. Our mission, again, is to restore the promise of this country that has been broken. After 11 years of Liberal governments, Canadians cannot afford housing, groceries, and gas. Liberals have doubled our debt, doubled food bank lineups, and doubled housing costs. They gave us the worst growth in the G7 over the last decade and the worst decade of economic growth in Canada's history. Mark Carney supported every single one of these costly, disastrous Liberal policies. And then in the last election, he promised to reverse everything he had said and that his party had done in the prior decade. Yet nothing has changed. Everything is worse. More crime, more costs, more corruption, more of the same. Mark Carney is just another Liberal. Carney Liberals have doubled Trudeau's deficit. This is amazing. No one thought it could get any worse than Justin Trudeau's deficits. Yet Carney's deficit is twice the size of Trudeau's, all because he's increased government spending by 7% year over year. He's added $90 billion of net new spending above and beyond his promised savings, two-thirds of which is going to day-to-day operations and not to capital investment. And CD Howe said today Canada can no longer pride itself on fiscal discipline, end quote. Carney Liberals gave us the worst food inflation in the G7, and yet he had the audacity to claim in the House of Commons last week that affordability is at its best in a decade. Carney Liberals promised to double home building, while his housing agency says it will fall by 18%. Today, Carney was again spreading housing illusions, re-announcing an announcement he made back in December for projects that have still not got underway. All he has built is a new housing bureaucracy, a new agency in Ottawa to sop up tax dollars and block home building. More illusions. A year after Mark Carney promised to build at speeds not seen in generations, his promised pipeline to the Pacific has no permit, no route, no investor, no builder, no start date, no end date, and no oil to put in it. In fact, the only company that says they could potentially build that pipeline, Enbridge, says there won't be enough oil because the Liberal industrial carbon tax will prevent it from ever being produced. He's not negotiated a single free trade agreement. He broke his singular promise from the last election to negotiate a win with the United States by July of last year. Instead, he has done nothing while the Americans have doubled tariffs on aluminum, steel, and other products and tripled them on lumber. No one knows his plans or even his goals. Help me to understand this. Sunday, Mark Carney released a video comparing himself to Sir Isaac Brock, a 19th century war general who fought a war against the Americans. He said in that video that it is a weakness that we trade with the U.S. Today, he said we're stronger together with the Americans. He said recently that he wants a rupture with the U.S. And now he says he thinks we can get a mutually beneficial deal. These are contradictions all in the span of a few days. So which is it? Is it a rupture or are we stronger together? And why is it that he contradicts himself so wildly? Is it because he doesn't know what he's doing from one day to the next? Or more likely, is it that he's using sensationalist words he does not mean to make headlines distracting from rising costs, crime, and corruption here at home in his own Liberal government? While he plays these games, there's one thing that is certainly rupturing: jobs. Almost a month ago, the U.S. slammed Canada with broadened tariffs. It will cost Windsor $1 billion alone. Yet the Prime Minister has not said or done a single thing about it. Zero, nothing. More ruptured jobs. He says he wants this rupture with the U.S. Does that mean he wants to pull out of the CUSMA? Because that's what a rupture would mean, unless the word was just a meaningless sensationalist slogan. Now, I would ask him that question directly in the House of Commons, but he won't show up for question period because he knows that he and his agenda are nothing but a grand illusion. As soon as someone asks him a tough question, the illusion collides with reality. And the reality is that he's been wrong on every major economic issue of our time. He was wrong to support a bigger and broader carbon tax. He was wrong to support EV mandates, wrong to say we should keep 50% of our oil in the ground, wrong to support money printing during COVID, wrong to predict that COVID would lead to deflation rather than inflation, wrong on every major issue of our time. including the Indo-Pacific. One of Mr. Carney's most ridiculous illusions is around trade deals. He has not negotiated a single new free trade deal. And let me say that again. Mark Carney has not negotiated a single new free trade deal. He has signed 20 joint press releases with other countries, many countries that we already had trade deals with before. Nor has his major projects office approved a single major project that would allow us to send more resources to Asia. We need reality and not illusions. Under the previous Conservative government, we were able to sign new free trade deals with 50 countries, including Canada, South Korea. We were able to expand our trade into that region. But we must do better and we must do more because our trade is still imbalanced with that region. Canada imports 25% of our merchandise imports from South Korea. From that region are coming into our country, but only 10% of our exports go in the other direction. We can do better. And that's why it's my pleasure to announce today that Shaq Howe, Member of Parliament, trade practitioner, and geopolitical expert, will serve as chair of the Conservative Party Pacific Gateway Economic Engagement Caucus with the following mandate: develop a comprehensive conservative strategic plan for the Asia-Pacific. Develop policy ideas for maximizing our exports to the region, including by approving pipelines and LNG plants. Protect Canada's security interests. Form a dedicated team of our Conservative shadow ministers to build out this policy. Support planning for future Conservative missions to the Indo-Pacific, and publish his findings in a comprehensive report by the end of this year. Shaq Howe has a strong and consistent record in this area. He has led numerous cultural, strategic, and humanitarian missions to the region. He has engaged with China, Japan, Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines, Cambodia, and Taiwan. He's also played a very important role in developing air links between Vancouver and the Far East to deepen economic and tourism ties. We look forward to your work, Shaq Howe, and congratulations. Another major issue in British Columbia is property rights and home ownership. The Cowichan Tribes versus Canada decision is a foundational shift in property rights for our country. It threatens home ownership of thousands of people by prioritizing Aboriginal title over private property rights. One company was unable to receive $100 million of financing recently because lenders were not sure of the collateral as a result of this ruling. If other groups making similar claims are successful in reaching the Cowichan threshold, it could threaten every single British Columbia homeowner because there are claims on the entire province, and those claims are not ceded by treaties. The Liberals have worsened this problem by signing the Musqueam Rights Recognition Agreement in secret, without property rights protections, proper transparency, or consultation with other First Nations. That agreement covers 533,000 hectares of British Columbia territory, including Metro Vancouver and the Richmond lands at the center of the Cowichan dispute. Mark Carney has failed in this area. He signed on to this agreement without protecting property rights, and two, he has kept in place a 2018 directive that forbids federal lawyers from defending property rights in the Cowichan appeal or anywhere else. This is a major failure of leadership. And by the way, where is Mark Carney on this? This is a federal lawsuit where the federal government is the defendant. And yet the federal prime minister has done and said nothing since August, while landowners don't know what their rights are and many fear they're going to lose their homes. That is why we as Conservatives are stepping up to fill the void that Mark Carney has left. I'm announcing today that I will be naming Teiko Van Popta as the chair of the Conservative Task Force on Property Rights, with a particular focus on the Cowichan ruling, the Musqueam Agreement, and other Aboriginal title disputes and negotiations. In this role, he will examine and bring to light the extent to which recent legal interpretations and federal arguments have eroded property rights and reconciliation. He will explore legislative and constitutional options necessary to protect property rights and home ownership. He will also build out the existing Conservative policy on this, which includes putting property rights first in the Cowichan case by arguing that it has priority over all other titles and reversing the Liberal current position which directs lawyers to not to defend property rights. He will also put forward the argument that no further treaties should be signed that do not include explicit property rights protections. We will also be pushing for a parliamentary committee to examine all of these matters on an urgent basis. As a real estate and land development lawyer for over 30 years and a director of the Surrey Board of Trade and the downtown Surrey Business Improvement Area, no one is more qualified than Taco to take on this task. He's also a managing partner at a firm that he was at for decades before getting elected, which focuses on land-related legal matters in the Lower Mainland. And so congratulations, Taco. I know you'll do a great job. Again, our mission is a Canada where hard work pays off, where people have affordable food and homes, where young people can actually own homes, where our streets are safe, our economy is strong. We want a Canada with stronger take-home pay, safer streets, solid borders, in a self-reliant nation. Thank you very much.
On the question of the Canada-U.S. deal, you've talked a lot about...
Okay, I just got to pause. Holy smoke. It's been a while since he's been in that exact position. And remember, you know, when he goes around everywhere, he's getting different reporters. The reporters that are here are the top of the political game reporters. They are the sharks. I like to call them the sharks because they are. They're so hungry for blood. They're the sharks of our reporters of the day. I really enjoy these reporters when they go off the handle. It makes the show so much better. Though I call them out for it. You know what I mean? It's a double, you know. And Pierre did it very good. He knew it was coming. He's got a tally on his head. He's keeping tallies. I gotta put on. He held it perfect. Oh, and so Van Popta, he said something about being quiet. And I don't know. He's been there for a long time, and I like him. I wouldn't cross him. I feel he's one of those, you know, in the House. You're like, yeah, okay. I won't debate. Anyway, I digress. Here, let's watch. Let's watch it continue. And the stoic face or the ice. I don't know how to say it. The stone face when he gets blasted by the sharks.
Pays off, where people have affordable food and homes, where young people can actually own homes, where our streets are safe, our economy is strong. We want a Canada with stronger take-home pay, safer streets, solid borders, in a self-reliant nation. Thank you very much.
On the question of the Canada-U.S. deal, you've talked a lot about Canada needing to use its leverage. The provinces are using leverage by keeping American booze off the shelves. Do you think they should put it back on and remove this irritant that the U.S. has expressed?
Well, first of all, I think we should focus on the big question here, which is that after Mr. Carney squandered all of our leverage by making a whole series of upfront concessions and getting nothing in return while he dragged out the matter, we've seen the Americans double tariffs on steel and aluminum and triple them on lumber. So that is what happens when you squander leverage, as Mr. Carney has done. I don't think we should squander any more leverage after learning from Mr. Carney's mistakes. But let's also focus on the reality that we're talking about 2.6 million Canadian jobs that could be ruptured if we don't get this right. That is the big focus. And not whether I don't think we need to spend...
I don't want to be like, you know, overly woke, but I don't think you can use that word he just used in polite conversation anymore, because if it's... I Googled it. I Googled the word, you know, I love word etymology, and it's like the origins of words. And it's not nice to our first. And I think it's, personally, they've had enough of the word zing zang. Everyone, I think. Anyway, I may be wrong. Leave your comment on it. But the SQ word, to my uneducated knowledge, it's not a bad word. It's just one that you're like, well, I don't know. You know, I'm not going to explain it. You can Google the etymology of the word, and it was really bad.
3 or 4 days debating whether we should drink bourbon or not. I think we should discuss whether 2.6 million Canadians are going to have their jobs. And the way to get those jobs secured is to get a tariff-free trade deal with the U.S. I'm the only one, by the way, who's presented a plan to get such a tariff-free trade deal. We need to get it done.
What does that mean?
Earlier last week, the Senate Human Rights
Committee
came up with a report on anti-Semitism. This was on Tuesday morning, where they recommended the reinstating of a position for the envoy of anti-Semitism, a position left vacant by Deborah Lyons last year. Tomorrow morning in Montreal, the government will announce $8.6 million of funding targeting the Black community and initiatives for the Black community across Canada. In the public sphere, we've spoken in the past against such initiatives targeting gender, race, or other groups. What do you make of it, and what's your current stance now?
I just think after 11 years of a liberal divisiveness where they separate people by race, ethnicity, gender, and every other possible dividing line, we've seen a more than 100% increase in hate-based violence.
I just want to see a show. I'm going to interject. I know you don't want to hear me. I don't care. I would like to just really not worry about anything except it's like, they're Canadian? That's it. That's all. That's all. I think, and the thing is we just found out from those charges that Q or whoever, Cash and I always want to call him Blanche. Blanche did a really good thing. Announcement. It was very excellent on the rhetoric, but they were like paying people to stoke this stuff. It's like, what? Well, so you know what? It's obvious. I've said this for a long time. I've never witnessed it. I've heard, like, you say a word, but people say nasty words to make their point. F-U-C, right? They don't mean it. They just mean to emphasize their point because, like all of us, we sometimes, our mind gets ahead of us and we lose our repertoire, right? We lose our letters in the heat of the moment and say stupid things. But I truly don't believe there's more than like a very tiny percentage that truly are. There may be, people who have, there's other levels. There's like, bias and these things and that. But that's probably, with the older. But I honestly have not, I just don't see it in the day-to-day. But I do on politics. But now it turned out like, whoa. It was manufactured, at least somewhere, I just personally can't believe that a government would do that. But then, every time you learn something new, you learn something you probably wouldn't believe.
What we need to do is actually lock up violent criminals who carry out the violence in the first place, stop terrorists and criminals from coming to our country through what are now open and porous borders. And we need to start treating every Canadian as an individual, not judging them based on the race, the ethnicity, or the gender. We treat everybody based on their Canadian personal characteristics of hard work, decency, and patriotism. By the way, I just realized I just made a mistake. I was supposed to let my members have a quick word here. I will take all your questions, though. I just wanted to. There you go. There you go.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chuck Gao, MP for Richmond Centre Marlborough riding. I'm both honored and humbled by the assignment. This is a huge and important task. But fortunately, we are building on the strong conservative record on trade expansion and diversification. As mentioned, during the time when Mr. Harper was the Prime Minister, Canada's trade agreement with other countries increased from 5 to 50. So we are building on this track record. In the weeks to come, I will be working with my colleagues and in consultation with the stakeholders to develop a policy framework, a plan, and an implementation strategy for us to move Canada's economy forward. Thank you.
Good, thank you. I'm very pleased that the Conservative Party, under the leadership of Mr. Poilievre, is taking a very clear and strong stance on private property rights. I spent my career as a real estate development lawyer taking indefeasible title to the bank. We always thought that private property rights were rock solid, sacrosanct, never to be messed with. What the title says, the title is. This is one of the principles on which our modern economy is established. Yet today, that has now been called into question. We are all very shocked at the Supreme Court of British Columbia decision in the Cowichan Tribes case, where for the first time in Canadian history, a court declared Aboriginal title on privately held lands. That's never been done before. It is not necessary for reconciliation. It puts reconciliation in the wrong direction, and I'm very pleased that this task force has now been tasked with coming up with solutions, coming up with recommendations, coming up with good policies to protect private property rights. Thank you.
You guys are a very excitable bunch today. Wow.
Qui ne sont pas nécessairement appréciées de la part de vos collègues du Bloc québécois et de certains Québécois en général, notamment.
So I don't know what he's doing here, but it looks like he's doubling down. See, Van Papta was a very close to him in the original go. I agree. The country's going in a lot of wrong directions. We have too much politicians and people worried about character asses and thinking this will be a solution. Nothing of that. The big hard stuff is not being done, in my opinion. It could be a lot better with, like I said, you can give $1 every single time you get a government dollar and give it to the best person every time, and that best person will put it in a bank. They only have so much time. They only have so much ambition. Or you can make that same dollar go and raise all boats from the lowest to the highest. And that's things like ports. A port helps the working class get jobs. It helps the companies export. And when you build certain things and a type of infrastructure that's better than others in the world, it gives our companies advantage, thus giving our workers advantage. That's what I mean by the dollar. I don't mean you don't give someone a sandwich. I don't believe the government should be handing out sandwiches or you know what I mean. You know, unless it's like survival. Yes. But that's the wrong word. They shouldn't be giving out money for living as much. Instead of money, it should be materials. So it's like, okay, here's a place for you. You don't have cash until you get a job, right? That's my opinion. You know, you have the government housing has been the real big problem, and I think it's something that should be focused on. But there we go. We have so he's doubling down on his closest. And this, I don't know, the strategy to take someone out.
Oui, absolument. En fait, pour être vraiment bilingue et pour respecter nos deux langues officielles, il faut dire que M. Wiseman n'est pas un homme sage. En réalité, il a dit qu'on devrait avoir 100 millions de nouveaux immigrants. Il a insulté le Québec et maintenant il fait des invitations dans seulement une langue officielle.
5-year period.
I don't understand the question.
The Americans have made clear that tariffs are the baseline for any trade agreement they sign with any partner nation, friendly or not. Is it worthwhile for Canada to go into those negotiations if tariffs are a starting point? Are the entry fee to getting a new CUSMA, is it worth going into those negotiations?
Well, I understood from the Prime Minister's remarks that he said that there wasn't an entry fee. So I don't know if you heard that.
Americans keep saying that tariffs are a prerequisite for any deal, and all of their previous deals have included tariffs. Do you think you could get a deal that does not include tariffs?
Yes. And I've already presented my plan on that. You build up your leverage, and you make it clear that the Americans only get what they want if we get what we want. What do they want? They've made it very clear. They need critical minerals. We have 10 of the 12 NATO-defined critical minerals that are necessary to fight a modern war. We have the aluminum that goes into fighter jets. We have the tungsten that goes into armor-piercing equipment. We have the germanium that goes into night vision technology. The list goes on. What I've said is we would fashion a strategic reserve of those minerals plus oil, and we would make it legally available at market rates to countries that have tariff-free trade with us, so that they would have the security that, God forbid, if we go into a war, they can arm themselves. I would also put forward an auto plan that has a formula to massively increase production in Canada and in the United States. which is the opposite of what's happening in both countries right now. The Americans are losing auto production because there's a terrible trade formula. I put forward a formula that will make the Americans and the Canadians produce more automobiles, which means that both of us get what we want. I've published these plans in painstaking detail. And by the way, I haven't seen anything analogous from Mark Carney, who's been Prime Minister for a year and who was elected because we were told he knew how to negotiate these things. So it seems like Mark Carney has waved the white flag and accepted permanent job-destroying tariffs on aluminum, steel, autos, and lumber. And that will mean a massive rupture of jobs. He wants to rupture jobs. I want tariff-free trade.
You said that you don't think we should spend the next 3 or 4 days debating around whether we should be drinking bourbon or not. I just want to clarify, does that mean you think it's time for premiers to put American booze back on the shelves?
No, I haven't said that.
But you think you're fine with the premiers keeping the American booze off the shelves?
Sure. At the end of the day, we're talking about my point is we're talking about a $700 billion, nearly $1 trillion trade deal. Okay? So what I'm saying is let's get focused on the real issue, which is that a fifth of our economy depends on this trade relationship. We need to focus on the real issues of getting tariffs removed on steel, aluminum, lumber, and autos, and getting back to tariff-free trade. That's what our focus should be. And I think the Prime Minister should get away from all of the theatrics, the YouTube videos, and the distractions and tell us how he's going to achieve that.
What do you think of the Ethics Committee recommendation that the Prime Minister should have to sell their portfolio since a blind trust is not true divestment?
I agree. I mean, we've never seen a Prime Minister so conflicted as Mark Carney. He has ownership of a company that has been described as Canada's single biggest tax dodger. So how is it that he could possibly pass offshore tax havens that come at the expense of the Canadian people? He has Brookfield sitting at the table when his ministers are negotiating in China. Who's he negotiating for, Brookfield or Canadians? Frankly, I have to be honest, I am stunned by how little scrutiny there has been of his personal financial interests and how they run in direct.
Well, that's I don't know.
Direct opposition to the national interests of this country. And I'm also stunned that the Prime Minister has used legalese to try and keep profiting himself at the expense of the public interest, rather than doing the honorable thing, which is to divest himself completely, sell all of his assets, and put it into a fully blind trust.
Have you asked for a meeting with Ambassador
I have met with him, yes.
And did you brief him on your meetings in the United States?
I didn't brief him on that. I have briefed the Prime Minister. He and I had a very long conversation after I returned, but I'm happy to chat with the Ambassador anytime.
Sur la gestion de l'offre, vous avez suggéré tantôt que votre plan, ce serait de concéder aux Américains certaines choses qu'ils veulent. Les Américains ont mis ça très clair.
Je n'ai pas dit ça.
Vous avez parlé des ressources, etc.
Mais des ressources, j'ai parlé de levier de négociation.
C'est très clair que les Américains veulent la gestion de l'offre canadienne, veulent s'y attaquer.
Je ne suis pas ici pour donner aux Américains tout ce qu'ils veulent. Je suis ici pour donner des choses qui sont dans les intérêts du Canada. C'est dans nos intérêts de vendre nos ressources. Ça donne des
I had it on mute. That was me. All right, that's the end of Pierre. He is there. He's really getting close to his. Like I said, that's. I don't know about the first fellow who spoke, but Van Popta. It's a fun name to say. He definitely is a Pierre corner guy. So he's getting his people. Right, health as a review, conflict of interest. Ooh. He's getting his people close. It seems. Oh, maybe Carney didn't speak today. I may have been incorrect. I hope not. Oh no, he did. He spoke today. It's a little bit of a long one, so I'm going to go until question period, and it's about housing. So get excited. Hopefully he does something on it. He's been going so slow. It's been frustrating. but he hasn't said he's finished. So it's like, Saint Foo yourself. That's what I keep saying to myself. It's like, all right, I got to give him some kind of a chance.
All right.
It's
Good
been a
morning,
long
everyone.
time.
Bonjour tout le monde. Je suis.
I'm going to get it. I'll get it right timed up for when Pierre. He's building homes. He's standing in the dirt. Standing in dirt, Carney. Oh my gosh. It's kind of funny. It is kind of funny to see him standing in.
Nepean, Tyler Watt, the MPP for the region. Margaret, thank you for being here. And the work, and Stefan, the work for the community homes, and Mayor Sutcliffe. Thank you. Thank you for your leadership, your partnership. And this today is truly about partnership, working for the people of Ottawa and the people of Canada. An example of what gets done when there's focus and partnership. The mayor and I would say, have been partners from the very beginning. Literally, my first day as Prime Minister, the first thing I did after I got up was to go have breakfast at John's Diner in Wellington West with the mayor to talk about shared priorities. Yours as mayor, mine as Prime Minister, and the first thing on both of our list was affordable housing. Getting affordable housing, how we can build housing faster, more efficiently, more sustainably, and of course at lower cost purchase, but also lower run cost for people in housing here in Ottawa and across Canada. Because when we build a stronger Ottawa, we build a stronger Canada, and our objective is a stronger Canada for all. And that foundation is the home. The home is the foundation of a good life, and yet for too many Canadians, housing has remained out of reach for too long. Now, there has been some progress over the course of the past year. I think it's important to recognize, to track where we are and whether we're making progress. By the end of last year, the start of this year, housing affordability in Canada had begun to improve from very unaffordable levels, but had begun to improve, and in fact had improved over the course of the last 24 months, longest streak recorded. The percentage of income that Canadians are spending on mortgage payments is now at their lowest level in 4 years. Asking rents are down to a 35-month low. The rent-to-income ratio, its lowest level in over 6 years. So some encouraging signs, but starting from very high levels, or put it a different way, levels of inaffordability. So there's still much work to do. The reality is that for decades, Canada has just not built enough affordable housing. And now Canadians are paying the price, particularly young Canadians. And what has been built over decades often has the overall costs have been driven up by development charges, taxes, high construction costs. And the average Canadian household is still spending more than half of their income on mortgage payments. So those mortgage payments are starting to come down, but it's still, as I said a moment ago, high levels. Il faut que tout le monde nous aide à régler ces défis. C'est pourquoi, au mois de septembre, notre gouvernement a lancé Maison Canada, une nouvelle entité fédérale qui va propulser la construction résidentielle partout au Canada. Elle va s'y prendre de trois façons. Tout d'abord, en s'associant au secteur privé pour planifier, gérer et bâtir de nouveaux logements abordables et accélérer la réalisation de projets de logement à grande échelle partout au Canada. Deuxièmement, en offrant un financement prévisible à faible coût pour aider les fournisseurs de logements au marché et autochtones à multiplier le nombre de logements abordables et communautaires au Canada. Et troisièmement, en stimulant la création d'une toute nouvelle industrie canadienne de l'habitation qui met à profit des méthodes de construction modernes, comme la construction de maisons préfabriquées. So since its launch in September of last year, just September of last year, Build Canada Homes has already committed to more than 10,000 new units through 13 partnerships across Canada with over 1,400 homes already under construction or breaking ground in the next 2 months. That means new affordable homes in Ottawa, Toronto, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Gatineau, and Halifax. And to build on this momentum and to further lower the costs of building affordable homes, Canada's new government tabled legislation to unlock $1.7 billion in federal funding for the provinces and territories. Through the Build Communities Strong Fund, we're investing billions to build housing-enabling infrastructure and reduce municipal development charges, charges that the buyers of new homes ultimately pay. Last month, we put that funding to work through a new agreement with Ontario. And this agreement will enable municipalities to cut development charges in half for 3 years, reducing the upfront costs of home building and giving builders the certainty that they need to build. So here in Ottawa, this measure alone, one measure alone, could bring down the cost of building a two-bedroom apartment by more than $15,000 and a new average single-family home by more than $28,000. And to further bring down costs for the Canadians who are buying those homes or who are renting those homes. We've eliminated GST on homes for up to $1 million for first-time home buyers, saving Canadians up to $50,000 on the purchase of their first home. That tax cut, now passed, officially came into place last month. And we're working with the provinces and territories to further multiply those savings. With the help of new federal funding, the Government of Ontario is matching the government's GST cut with a provincial HST relief on all new homes, valued at up to $1 million. So what does that mean here in Ottawa? It means saving buyers in Ottawa as much as $130,000 on the purchase of their new home. If you combine that with the development charge reduction, that could mean as much as $158,000 in savings. Real money back in the pockets of Canadians. It's a clear example of what governments can do when they focus and when they work together. En décembre, comme Monsieur le maire vient de le dire, le maire Sutcliffe et moi, nous avons annoncé un nouveau partenariat ambitieux entre Maison Canada et la ville d'Ottawa. Ce partenariat vise à construire plus rapidement jusqu'à 3 000 logements abordables pour des ménages à revenus mixtes grâce à un investissement conjoint de 400 milliards de dollars. Dans le cadre de cette entente, la Ville d'Ottawa va réduire ou annuler les droits d'aménagement, les frais de délivrance de permis et les taxes foncières pour des projets prioritaires totalisant 2 000 nouveaux logements. Et par Maison Canada, notre gouvernement va verser de financement pour aider à faire avancer la construction de 1 000 logements de plus dans le portefeuille de la ville. So December, the mayor and I made a commitment to build more homes faster for the people of Ottawa. Today, we're proud to announce that Build Canada Homes has approved 8 new housing projects that will build more than 1,100 new rental homes in the city of Ottawa, already exceeding our original target by 10%. We're fast-tracking these projects to get shovels in the ground in the next few months, shovel in the ground over there, and I want to thank Ottawa City Council for their unanimous vote of confidence in this work last evening. Construction right here on Geyser Place will begin later this year. And this project, I covered them both, but it's Geyser. You say Geyser, I say Geyser. Tomato. This project will build more than, well, it says 100 new rental units. Actually, I think, Stéphane, it's closer to 180. 118. 118, 118 nouveaux appartements, en effet, de logements pour des Canadiens de classe moyenne, for middle-class Canadians. Now, beyond here in Nepean, we're building in Centertown, in Sandy Hill, in Overbrook, and Lincoln Heights. Homes across this city built by Canadians for Canadians. L'important, ce n'est pas seulement ce que nous bâtissons, c'est aussi comment nous le faisons. Nous bâtissons de manière inclusive, en partenariat avec les Premières Nations, les Inuits et les Métis. Nous bâtissons en solidarité avec les travailleurs en créant de bons jobs syndiqués. Nous bâtissons de manière durable parce que la réduction des émissions n'est pas seulement un devoir moral, c'est aussi un impératif économique. And for example, this project will benefit from c'est quoi? Geothermal, yeah, heating and cooling. It's dramatically lowering the costs for the residents. Et avant tout, conformément à notre politique achetée canadienne, nous bâtissons canadien, avec de l'acier canadien, de bois d'œuvre canadien et des travailleurs canadiens. C'est ainsi que nous bâtissons un Canada fort. Et grâce à Maison Canada, notre gouvernement construit rapide the shocks. Canada is expected to have the second fastest growing economy in the G7 this year and next. Wages overall are growing now at twice the rate of overall inflation. But at the same time, we know that the cost of living is still high, and we know that some of the biggest payoffs of our plan will take time.
Oh, that was good. That was he has a nice paddle somewhere in the scenery in the background because he spoke he touted up that part. It's getting better. It isn't there now, and you can't ever say that. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter, right? It's just some people are struggling even in the great economy, and so yeah, he's learned a political speak-em there. You know, you can't say certain things. Even it doesn't matter.
So we're supporting Canadians who are under pressure from everyday expenses with a boost today and a bridge to that better tomorrow. And that's why we temporarily cut the federal fuel excise tax this week, bringing down costs at the pump by up to 10 cents per liter. Combined with our earlier elimination of the consumer carbon tax on day one of our government, we've lowered the price of gas by up to 28 cents per liter. We've cut income taxes for 22 million Canadians, saving families up to $840 each year. We've launched the Groceries and Essentials benefit, which will deliver direct payments to more than 12 million Canadians, up to $1,890 per family. That's money deposited directly into bank accounts, starting with the first checks on the 5th of June. That's how we're building a Canada that's not just strong, but good. A Canada that's not just prosperous, but fair. Canada that's not just for some, most of the time, but for all of the time. A Canada where everyone can get ahead. Nous bâtissons un pays fort, une Ottawa forte, et un Canada fort pour tous. Merci, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you very much.
Merci, Monsieur le Prime Ministre. Thank you, Prime Minister. We'll now begin with a question. Première question, Marco.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. Marco Vigliotti, iPolitics. I want to ask about the status of the trade talks because I'm admittedly a bit confused. The Americans, when I talk to them, they don't really kind of understand where this talk of an entry fee is coming from, saying we've been very, very clear with the Canadians what our trade irritants are. Yep. You had Howard Lutnick, you had Jameson Greer yesterday doubling down that dairy and alcohol in particular were huge barriers to restarting trade talks. And Jameson Greer even threatened retaliatory actions if you don't convince your provincial colleagues to remove some of those bans on U.S. liquor. So I got to ask, considering yesterday you said, I'm not backing down, we're not going to make any concessions to get Americans to come to the table. What's the game plan here? Or what are you prepared to do to get Americans at the table here? Or are you comfortable with this kind of awkward status quo that we have right now?
Look, I don't think that was an exact quote of what I said yesterday, so I'm not going to associate myself with the way you framed it. There are a series of trade issues between the countries. Most of the issues have been raised by the United States, either in terms of things they want to see changed in Canada. There are a series of tariff measures the United States has put in place which are in violation of the existing agreement. The tariffs on steel, the tariffs on aluminum, the tariffs on automobiles, the tariffs on forest products. Those are not consistent with the existing agreement. We look forward to sitting down. We have an exchange around these issues, both in terms of understanding I'll use their term, they often use trade irritants, a series of measures, which would include actions that have been taken in response to the American measures, such as the provincial actions. These are provincial actions with respect to alcohol on the shelves. I mean, you've got to remember, the client here are the provincial liquor authorities. They make the decisions what they put on their shelves. And they make those decisions based on a series of considerations, and they've taken that into account. So our work is as follows. With respect specifically to the negotiations, is to be prepared on all of the issues to provide our perspective and address, to negotiate in the round on all of these issues. This is a review process that's baked into the existing framework of the agreement, and as well to see where there are opportunities where we can be stronger together, and there are a number of those. We have those discussions as a whole. You prefaced your question where you don't know where this talk of a quote entry fee. I don't know where the talk of a quote entry fee is from. Certainly not coming from me. It's not language I've ever used, and it's not language I've ever heard from the President of the United States. So, look, we're ready. We have an exchange. It's more than ready. There's exchange on both understanding the issues and on opportunities for cooperation. It's a negotiation. These things have their own rhythm, and they also have what's happening above the surface and what's happening below the surface, and we'll see in the fullness of time.
Follow-up?
Yeah, on that same vein, I guess my confusion stems from the fact that the Americans are saying, not really a negotiation. We're laying out what we need to see Canada do, and Canada's not meeting us there.
That's a negotiation. That's a position. See, Yana, there's two parties in a negotiation. Mm-hmm. One, we're not sitting here taking notes, okay, and taking instruction from the United States. Understanding their position. We understand where it's in Canada's interest, in our joint interests to be stronger together. And this is a government that can do many things at one time. We set up, to go back to today, we set up Build Canada Homes. It literally was set up in September. The legislation to give it all of its authorities is still working its way through the House. We're glad that we have a majority now. We can move that forward more rapidly. We're already in a position where 10,000 plus homes catalyzed by Build Canada Homes are either under these agreements are in place. We've got 1,400 homes are either under construction or will be in the next 2 months. We're doing that plus large projects. We're doing it plus providing a boost and a bridge to Canadians. We're doing that while continuing, despite unprecedented trade measures being taken by the United States. We're the second fastest growing economy in the G7 with the best fiscal position, with 20 new deals signed with other countries around the world. So we're going to do multiple things at the same time. We have enough room. We're ready to go into detailed negotiations. We're also ready to wait if that's what has to happen.
But in terms of that urgency,
we're running out of time otherwise. Next question. Question.
Prime Minister Stephanie Levitz from the Globe and Mail. I will quote you directly from yesterday, if that's okay with you.
That's good.
So you were talking about, it was the question of trade irritants. You said, we understand what the Americans would call trade irritants or trade issues are. We have some on our side as well. Can you be a bit more clear about what those are, and are those things that you would like to see solved prior to negotiation? Are they part of the negotiation?
No, Ms. Levitz, I think this distinction between prior and to any adjustment on the trade side is part of the negotiation. That's my view. So whether you have a global agreement or you take a few things off the table as part of moving towards that global agreement, that's part of the negotiation. So I think to some degree, I understand why you're asking the previous question, but it's an unhelpful distinction because it's part of an overall negotiation. That's the simple thing. What are trade irritants? There's a 50% tariff on aluminum, 50% tariff on steel. The derivative measures that have been put in place on both of those. The auto tariffs, which are inconsistent with the side letters, the tariffs on forest products. So there's a series of issues there that are right there in front of us all. I mean, they're fundamental. We understand the Americans have changed their overall trade policy, their orientation, but we need to work together, and we will work together in the context of what's in the best interests of both countries.
Follow-up? Just as the follow-up, with regards to the steel tariffs in particular, and I want to link this to the video you posted on the weekend about forward guidance and not sugarcoating it for Canadians. There are people in the steel industry now, for example, who are looking at the way they've changed the application of the steel tariff and are warning that thousands of jobs are going to be lost imminently, like not down the road, like within weeks. And so I wonder if you could speak to those Canadians, and what is your assessment of how bad it is about to get out there?
I would make if I may, distinction between the industry, the core industry in steel, where a series of measures have been taken, raising our tariffs and so-called tariff rate quotas to third country steel into Canada, introducing a Buy Canadian policy, providing strategic response, hundreds of millions of dollars of support into the industry and into workers, which is helping to shift some of our largest steel manufacturers into profitability and into new markets. I want to distinguish between that, where there's more to be done, and look, it would be better for the United States. We are resolute about this, better for the United States and better for Canada to have a unified steel market that we had before. It would make the U.S. more competitive versus China. It would provide more markets for American steel. That would do a number of things as well. Ultimately, that's part of the negotiation. Where the pressure is increasing, and what we're looking at right now, is the change in American, this term derivatives, where it's downstream users of steel, and then a steel-like tariff, or effectively a steel tariff being applied to the whole product, and the jump in the tariff because of that. And that is a new development that the Americans are applying globally. Remember that all the things in steel, aluminum particularly, America's applying to everybody. We happen to have a trade agreement, or existing trade agreement, which is what they're doing is inconsistent with that. I recognize my answers are long, but I'll make sure we get some more questions. So I better stop there.
Next question, prochaine question. Jordan.
Hi, Jordan Gowling, National Post. The MOU deadline is 3 weeks past for deals on industrial carbon pricing, Pathways Project. Is the source of the delay disagreement on industrial carbon pricing?
No, source of delay is good hard work between. The reality is there's good work, regular conversations between the governments, the federal government and the government of Alberta. We're making progress on a number of things. These are fundamental structural changes we're making together, and I would say we're making good progress. It's not quite there yet, but you'll be amongst the first to know when it is.
Follow-up. Premier Smith has said the level should be at a level that the industry can afford. The oil and gas sector has been clear that they need to remain competitive given the global context. So are you willing to compromise?
Global context for oil and gas is actually quite attractive, I might add. If you can produce oil and ship it, it's quite attractive, yes.
But are you willing to compromise on $130 a ton, or do you?
We're going to get to the $130 effective price is part of the MOU, and we're working in terms of the way to that the market, and in the end, and I'll finish on this because others, it's how the market works in Alberta to a broader extent across Canada, because the effective price is a price in the market. And one of the points I would underscore, which is not well understood, is that the effective carbon price in this country is actually quite low relative to the headline price, in the $20 to $30 in most Canadian markets. And that's something we're working to rectify.
Next question, prochaine question. David.
David Aiken, Global News. Good morning.
Morning.
Ahead of Ambassador Wiseman's testimony later today, I wondered if
All right, folks, get excited. We're going to statements by members. I guess that wasn't Pierre. I should have changed that, eh? We're going to that. That'd be pretty good. So I guess Carney, he's in the PN, so he definitely won't be there, right? Obviously. Question period. So Pierre should be. And who else? I wonder. Should be pretty interesting, though. The question period is starting to build up. There's a bit more tensions. As the Liberals start spending more, it'll become more than that. I do believe. Like, subscribe, and comment. Well, you know what? I don't really care.
You might comment on why he's the right guy for the job at this time, why you picked him. And
yeah, there's I don't know, these negotiations. I have a really big feeling that they were tough at first, but Canada is going to get off very easy because we already have very fair, competitive. We buy a lot of stuff. We're like, as far as income goes, we are an exporting nation, yes, but we do buy a lot of American stuff. Like when we buy stuff, a lot of times companies and people, it's buying American, right? You know, it's proximity is a big
marks its 199th
All right,
anniversary.
statements by members.
Nearly 2 centuries, shaped by people who care deeply about learning, community, place, and one another.
Wow.
Situated on Treaty 3 lands, held by the Mississaugas of the Credit, home to the Haudenosaunee and the Attawandarog, Guelph brings together nature and ideas from the University of Guelph Arboretum to the Speed and Aramosa Rivers to a historic downtown rich in arts, culture, and local business. Its contributions to the arts, culture, science, innovation, and business resonate nationally and globally. As Guelph approaches its bicentennial, I invite you and all Canadians to gather in Guelph to celebrate a city that values words and imagination, home to celebrated authors, birthplace of Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae, author of In Flanders Fields, birthplace of 2 Nobel laureates. Guelph is a cornerstone of Ontario agriculture and a leader in advanced manufacturing. Welcome to gather in Guelph to celebrate this remarkable city. Happy birthday to the Royal City.
The Honourable Member for Newmarket Aurora.
1 month ago, I introduced the Stand on Guard Act, and yet today we still have no response from this Liberal government. Not a yes, not a no, just silence. Is silence really the best response that the Liberals can muster for victims of home invasions? Our Conservative bill is simple. If someone knowingly and unlawfully enters your home, the force that you use to defend your family should deem to be reasonable. Your home is your safe place. It's where your children sleep, and it deserves special protection under our laws. But after a decade of catch-and-release Liberal bail, Canadians are telling us that that sense of safety is gone, and they're asking for something simple, for the law to stand with them. And they've received silence, and silence in this moment is not neutral, it's an answer in itself. Conservatives will never stop fighting for the rights for Canadians to feel safe to defend themselves and their families.
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg West.
All right, I'm pausing it here for a second because I heard this yesterday about, look at all there's actually more Liberals than Conservatives. Wow. Yeah, the Conservatives are not, I think they've chosen the wrong path, and it's just being incorrect. But that's okay because it'll help the Liberals. You know what I mean? They're in power, right? If they have a party that's more popular in opposition, it makes for trouble when we have these negotiations. So these crime rates have been going down. Canada's overall crime rate is going down. And people are calling for smaller. If you remember in the 80s, people didn't call it 60s, you know what I mean? 70s. People called less than they do now. It's the nature of the people, right, of us. You know what I mean? We used to deal with it ourselves too much. I think that was a part of the problem, right? In my opinion. So key crime rate. So total crime rate is from 5,672. It's a fall. 3.6%. Crime severity, it's down 5%. Violent CSI is only down 1%. Nonviolent CSI, I don't know what those are, is 6%. Home homicide rate is down 4%. And I think this year, we're going to see one of the biggest years. I may be wrong. I hope I'm not. The biggest years in drop in crime will most likely be this year. And, there's it's a conservative thing to get people riled up about things. It's just their modus operandi. They always go to it. They pull out and I think it's unfair. It works though, so you know what I mean. It's great because it works almost every time. They say 3 points about a court case, and then say the person got off. They don't give you all the details. They omit any detail that would look against their side, and then they ask a question about it, and you're like, oh my God, they let that out. That judge is nuts. You know what I mean? You don't know the truth. You know what I mean? They basically say, they lead you down the trail of lies and then ask you, what do you think? And it works almost every. It works on me, and I know they're doing it. It's fantastic. But I believe in Canada. Canadians are not like Americans and Texans. Like, we have a different mentality. That's why the Conservatives. This is one of the major reasons why Conservatives are the second party of Canada, and the Liberals mostly rule, because the Liberals do things, silly things like that, politicking, but that is a big one. People don't believe, Canadians on average don't believe other Canadians are bad people, and it's harder to get them to believe it. The social media has been helping that opinion, hate your neighbor opinion. They're all bad, helping, shouldn't say it that way, but overall, the Canadian thing is as we found with every major real study on this stuff in the country. But there's a lot of people that make money out of this, and it can always get better, right? Like Scram Government, have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, Canadians marked Earth Day, a call to action to protect the environment we all share. In my riding, that call is already being answered. At College Sturgeon Heights Collegiate, an unused plot of land is being transformed into a thriving native prairie garden, thanks to a $1,500 Go Wild grant from the World Wildlife Fund Canada. This project will restore native plants and grasses, support pollinators like bees, and help bring back monarch butterflies.
Okay.
These are
the
real
monarch.
tangible steps to protect local.
Oh, I like this guy. I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen him. He's wearing a bow tie. He's got the political. Hey, that's the political outfit. I like him. I don't know him. I like him. And he's talking about the monarchy butterfly. And that's a great thing in a statement. They fly from here to Mexico. It's a great thing. But here's the long-term trend. There's been a little bit. There was a little bit uptick because of during COVID of stuff that happened, but that's all back down. We're back down to normals. This is the truth, folks, and this is what I've seen in my life, and I thought it was true, and this is it. Long-term trends, despite reason, the overall, despite recent yearly fluctuations, right? That was just like the COVID. What happened? COVID. The overall crime rate remains 30% lower than its peak. 1992. It's 30% lower. It's dropped since the 90s, 30%. Now, there are other types of crime, like weapons crimes in the cities. We're having a little bit more urban crime than we did as we have our cities got bigger and more concentrated. There's a little bit, but overall, 30%. So when you get the scaremonger, it's tough. It's a tough call. I believe you fight for measures to get it. And now listen to this guy. Doug, sorry for cutting you off. Hey, the monarch butterfly.
Biodiversity. It is being led by the school's garden club and supported by life skills students with plans to expand into Indigenous studies programming, including traditional medicinal plants. I want to recognize Mrs. Zinn, a dedicated teacher whose leadership turned this vision into reality. This is more than a garden. It is a living classroom, a community coming together. Proof that protecting our environment depends on action, not words. This is how we will build a sustainable future. One community, one project, one generation at a time.
The honourable member for Cambridge.
Mr. Speaker, this year marks the 100th anniversary of the Galt Legion, a milestone that reminds us that remembrance does not happen on its own. It endures because individuals choose to carry it forward. In my community of Cambridge, Bill Albers is one of those individuals. Bill has devoted his time and energy to ensuring that important but often overlooked aspects of our wartime history are not lost. Through his work, he highlights the role of carrier pigeons and the pigeoneers who served during the First and Second World Wars, a vital form of service relied upon when other communication failed. But more than the history itself, Bill's efforts reflect a deep respect for service, sacrifice, and remembrance. Especially in the centennial year of the Galt Legion, his commitment helps connect past generations to the present, reminding our community why we honor those who served. Remembrance is strengthened by people like Bill Albers, who ensure that the stories of war continue to be shared, understood, and respected. Let us also remember that even the smallest wings carried the weight of great responsibility, saving thousands of lives.
L'honorable député de Bourassa.
The Honourable Member for Bourassa. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I rise to mark the 40th anniversary, yes, the 40th anniversary of the Centre d'Action Bénévole de Montréal-Nord. For 4 decades, the CAB has been at the heart of our neighborhood. It supports seniors, it helps newcomers settle in, it mobilizes volunteers, and builds community ties that make the riding of Bourassa stronger and more inclusive. The CAB embodies the noblest aspects of civic engagement. People who choose to get involved not because they have to, but because they want to, out of their convictions. Without these people, without these volunteers, so many cultural and sports and recreation activities could not even occur, Mr. Speaker. So, on behalf of the residents of Bourassa, I give them all my thanks, and I wish them a happy 40th anniversary. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Small businesses are the backbone of the Canadian economy, and that's truer than ever in St. Thomas, Elgin, and London. Our small businesses are an incredible testament to the resilience, grit, and innovativeness of our community. Some of our amazing entrepreneurs and professionals were recognized Friday at the St. Thomas and District Chamber of Commerce Impact Awards. I hope this House will join me in congratulating this year's Impact Award winners: real estate agent Ainsley Tracy, the Delicious Taco House, Dr. Joseph Mai from Central Community Health Centre, Our Place Respite, Element 5, Yarmouth Group, and the Business of the Year, Evelyn's Sausage Kitchen. They and all the nominees represent the best of our community. They create jobs, opportunity, and vitality for St. Thomas and Elgin. But entrepreneurs back home don't walk alone. My office is a proud member of the St. Thomas and District Chamber of Commerce. In Ottawa today from the Chamber are Maria Fialos, Paul Jenkins, and Christy Hunking. They're here representing our community and making sure small businesses can succeed, and I thank them for their efforts.
People, great job. The Honourable Member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, as the proud daughter of a Mexican immigrant, I rise on April 23rd to celebrate Spanish Language Day, recognized by the United Nations and 21 countries around the world. Spanish is now the most widely spoken non-official language in Canada, connecting more than 1.7 million Canadians to their heritage, identity, and traditions. 3 provinces and 14 cities have now proclaimed April 23rd as Spanish Language Day, and our Prime Minister has called this day a wonderful opportunity for Canadians of all backgrounds to learn from our Spanish-speaking communities. Communities across our country have spoken. Let us proclaim April 23rd as Spanish Language Day at the federal level.
Feliz Día del Idioma Español. Gracias, señor presidente.
The Honourable Member for Regina Luban.
On April 8th, Saskatchewan's 21st Lieutenant Governor, the Honourable Vaughan Solomon Schofield, passed away, marking an end to a life of service, strong community values, and humility. Vaughan will be remembered for her outstanding contributions to Canada's armed forces, highlighted by the numerous honors she held, including recently becoming the Honorary Colonel of 15 Wing Moose Jaw. True to her advocacy for our men and women in uniform, Vaughan established the Lieutenant Governor's Military Service Pin and hosted the Support Our Troops Gala, which was a national fundraiser for charities that assist military families. She had an unwavering and enduring bond with the people of Canada, Saskatchewan, and the Canadian Armed Forces. Vaughan's love of service is second to only one thing: her love of family. She's a devoted mother to George and Whitney. She was a loving wife to her best friend and her husband, Gord, and she truly loved her 4 grandchildren. They were the light of her life. Vaughan will be remembered for her charisma. Every room she walked into brightened with her smile and her charisma. May she rest in peace.
L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, this year marks the 50th anniversary of the Mirabel Chamber of Commerce and Industry. This is a major milestone that deserves to be celebrated. For 50 years, the Chamber of Commerce and Industry has been deeply committed to the community. Since my election in 2021, I have seen an organization that truly listens to its members, that innovates, and above all, that plays an essential role in the region's economic development. It has successfully mobilized Mirabel's strength, be it in agriculture, aerospace, or small and medium businesses, and forged strong ties between these sectors. It's no coincidence that it is nominated this year in the Recruitment and Chamber of the Year categories for organizations with 400 or fewer members. This recognition from the Fédération des Chambres de Commerce du Québec confirms the quality of their work and their very real impact. I would like to acknowledge the work of all the boards of directors that have served over the years, as well as the work of Executive Director Geneviève Bruce-Sabourin and her entire team. On behalf of the people of Mirabel, congratulations on 50 years. Mr. Speaker, allow me to raise my glass to another 50 years, at least.
That better not be vodka. He didn't drink. He didn't drink.
Mr. Speaker, Don Valley West is home to the largest community of Shia Ismaili Muslims in Canada. This vibrant community is made up of thousands of engaged, committed Canadians who make our city and our country richer in every sense of the word. Recently, I was honored to join His Highness the Aga Khan and members of the community to celebrate the inauguration of Generations Toronto, a new not-for-profit intergenerational community in Don Valley West, comprising 390 affordable rental homes, 122 long-term care residences, on-site health care, an early learning center, space for prayer and community programming. This project represents the best of our efforts to build vibrant and affordable housing, a generational project for several generations to live together. This investment of $130 million through the Apartment Construction Loan Program is one example of our federal government providing affordable housing solutions for Canadians in need. We are building Canada strong.
Okay, so those of you who don't know, Don Valley West is the place that you go when you've landed the money. The first time I was there, I wasn't aware, like we were going to a place, it was Don Valley West, but we all of a sudden became through that area and there wasn't like a sign, right? City. And I'm like, wow, I looked around and there was like large trees and hills and like, we're in like Toronto-ish, right? And I'm like, well, this is really nice here. And the girl's like, yeah, this is Don Valley. I think she said Don Valley West. And she's like, yeah, this is Don Valley. It's like, yes, it was very nice. Everyone was like, had the time when you walked by, not just the curt head nod, which is very nice and polite. It's a Canadian thing. It was like, hello, good morning. You know what I mean? It was like, oh my God, these people are so nice. Everything's so great, you know? Yeah, and so he's from one of that. He's this very, very. He's one of the most educated and accomplished MPs on their bench, and I think it's because of the riding he's in is a very educated and accomplished riding. So they need to have that, and he's good. You don't get much of him in question period, but I imagine he does a lot in the background.
L'honorable député de Sudbury.
The Honourable Member for Sudbury East, Manitoulin, Nickel Belt.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday, hundreds of workers in Nairn Centre and Gogama were told their sawmills will indefinitely shut down. The Liberals have been dragging their feet and have failed to secure a fair deal. Hard-working families are now left in limbo. The Prime Minister promised a trade win by last summer. Instead, softwood lumber tariffs have tripled to 45% since 2022, putting immense pressure on Canada's forestry sector. Recycled speeches and photo ops are not enough. It is time for this Liberal government to walk the talk. The alarm bells are ringing. We need results. The Liberals must stand up for our forestry sector and finally fight for the workers who keep Northern Ontario communities alive.
That one MP, Andrew Lawton, sometimes, I disagreed with some of his harsher conservative. I'm more of a Mulrooney conservative, when they were winning all the time. And I just, sometimes, and then he came up, and I was ready to kind of have a little bit of rebuttal, and he came up and he gave like a very heartwarming speech about his personal struggles, and it was I had to roll up my jaw from the floor, blink several times, wink, wink. It was like, whoa. It was pretty heartwarming, for a cold cat like me. It was, and I didn't expect it from him because he's kind of a cold cat political player. You know what I mean? A political jabber, and he did a really. I'll put it back for a second so you see. He just spoke. See, the guy on the far right in the back did a really good speech. I don't know, it was a couple of weeks ago.
And finally, fight for the worker.
Mr. Speaker, today I would like to highlight Volunteer Week, which runs from April 19th to 25th, 2026. This is an opportunity to recognize the extraordinary commitment of volunteers.
Volunteers, and everyone in this room can agree, we wouldn't be standing in this house without the tireless work of the volunteer organizers who got us here. In Halifax, I'd like to give a special shout out to the dedicated volunteers who helped during the campaign, as well as those who continue to support me in this role. I'd like to also recognize the volunteer firefighters, event organizers, those who work with our food banks, in healthcare, environmental and arts organizations, and all those who dedicate themselves to strengthening our community. À tous les bénévoles partout au Canada.
To all volunteers across Canada, thank you.
Volunteer Week, and in recognition of the United Nations International Year of Volunteers, I'd like to thank all of Canada's volunteers. Your contributions make a difference in people's lives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for York, Durham.
The Prime Minister was elected on the promise that he alone could handle the United States. He went further. He told Canadians, and I quote, "We will get an even better deal." So Canadians have every right to judge him by the promises that he made. But on top of that broken promise, we now have contradictions and confusion. This week, the Prime Minister said our relationship with the United States is a weakness, but days later said he could still get a good deal. So which is it? A rupture with the United States in favor of China, or a good deal with the United States? Canadians fear that history is repeating itself. Just like last time, the Mexicans are in advanced negotiations with dates scheduled for May. Canada, we're on the outside looking in. The Prime Minister's contradictions and confusions have led to more tariffs, higher tariffs, and broader tariffs on everything from lumber to manufactured goods. And now his absence from the negotiating table is putting in peril the millions of Canadian jobs that rely on a strong, stable relationship with the United States.
The Honourable Member for Sherbrooke. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The community of Estrie is mourning the passing of Claude Métra, who passed away on April 16th, 2026. A certified public accountant emeritus who spent his career at Raymond Chabot Grant Thornton in Sherbrooke, Mr. Métra was a prominent figure and a leader known for his generosity and deep love for his region. He was a true builder. He chaired.
Knows that as soon as he faces a tough
side of the House, we're going to be here for Canadians.
The Liberals finally caved to our demand, tangible structure and Canadian families.
Today to recognize an extraordinary act of generosity that will have a lasting impact on health care in Humber River Black Creek. Recently, Humber River Health announced a transformational $50 million donation from Jay and Barbara Hennick through the Hennick Family Foundation, the largest single gift in the hospital's history. In recognition of this landmark contribution, Humber's flagship site has been renamed Hennick Humber Hospital. This historic gift will support advanced technologies, clinical programs, research, and education, ensuring that patients continue to receive safe, high-quality, and innovative care. I also wish to commend Barb Collins, the President and CEO of Humber River Health, for her visionary leadership in building one of Canada's most innovative hospitals. And of course, I thank the dedicated staff who deliver excellence every day. This is philanthropy and leadership at the very best. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oral questions.
Oh, that's $50 million. That's a big one, eh? Whoa, did you hear that roar? The roar.
With this Liberal Prime Minister, more costs, more crime, more corruption, more of the same. No illusion, it's just another Liberal. For example, he keeps 2/3 of tax on gas still, even though Canadians are paying too much at the pump. And the new carbon tax that he calls the carbon standard and GST, they cost 15 cents together per litre. Can this Prime Minister stop taxing Canadians at the pump, or is he just another Liberal? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, allow me to help my colleague. He must know that we've always been here for Canadians with measures for affordability, Mr. Speaker. Recently, you saw that we suspended the excise tax on gas, and we saw prices go down at the pump. On this side of the House, we're going to be here for Canadians when they need it, and together we're going to build Canada strong.
Leader of the Opposition.
The question was for the Prime Minister, who is in Ottawa today, but who is hiding under the table, Mr. Speaker. But I've heard everything, but I imagine that they weren't referring to the presence or the absence of a member. It was broader than that. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition, he may continue. The reason why the Prime Minister hates to answer real questions is because it exposes the illusion that despite the impression he wants us to have of him, he's doubled the deficit left by Justin Trudeau. He's doubled this $40 billion deficit. It's almost $80 billion now. Tax havens, all sorts of waste. This deficit's out of control. The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, it's true the Leader of the Opposition was here, and days come and go, and the questions seem to be the same. And one thing is true. Mr. Speaker, I think they should be listening, Mr. Speaker, on that side of the House, because the Canadians are listening. We have the second quickest growth in the G7, and the IMF has just confirmed that Canada has the strongest fiscal position. We'll be presenting a plan for Canadians to build a Canada Strong together by the end of the month.
Position. With this Liberal Prime Minister, it's more cost, more crime, more corruption, more of the same. That's because despite the illusions, he's just another Liberal. This is true on gas taxes, where he's keeping 2/3, yes, they're applauding, he's just another Liberal, keeping 2/3 of the gas tax in place while Canadians get ripped off at the pump. The new carbon tax, which he calls the Clean Fuel Standard, and the GST add 15 cents a litre. Will the Prime Minister stop gouging Canadians at the pump, get rid of all taxes for all the year, or is he just another Liberal?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, more of the same. I think the leader should himself in the mirror, Mr. Speaker. Every other day is the same question, Mr. Speaker. But one thing that Canadians know, Mr. Speaker, we're always going to have their back, Mr. Speaker. When it was the time to present the grocery rebate, Mr. Speaker, they were nowhere to be seen. When it was the time to give a gas tax rebate, Mr. Speaker, he was nowhere to be seen. On this side of the House, we'll always stand with Canadians, and Tuesday we'll present a plan to build Canada strong together. That's leadership, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister hides under his desk instead of answering questions because whether it's today when he was snarling at a female journalist for him simply asking a question, or in the House of Commons where he hides from those same questions, he knows that as soon as he faces a tough question, it exposes the thinly veiled illusion. And that the reality is that he's just another Liberal. He's doubled Justin Trudeau's deficit, the biggest deficit outside of COVID in Canadian history because of massive increases in spending. Will he cut back on the bureaucracy, the waste, and the tax havens to bring down his out-of-control deficit for Canada?
Mr. Speaker, if being just another Liberal means that we support single mothers with the cost of childcare, I'm just another Liberal. If being just another Liberal means that we help ensure kids get food to eat in schools, I'm just another Liberal. If making sure that skilled tradespeople get the training to get those prosperous jobs or investing in major projects is being a Liberal, I'm just another Liberal. I guess the question is, what do Conservatives really stand for if being Liberal is about helping Canadians?
Yeah, I know this is controversial, will be, but orphanages should come back. Government-run orphanages for some times in very small situations were a thing, but what happened was they became horrible, and so they were shut down, like worldwide. Because what happens with vulnerable people, they get abused. When the government, when you have that, but there wasn't enough scrutiny, and maybe with more scrutiny, things like that. But you know what? Sometimes, in a lot of cases, sometimes, you know, the adopted is the most likely to go missing. You know what I mean? That's just...
Well, we now understand why that Liberal Prime Minister is fleeing from questions today, refusing to face accountability, because if doubling the deficit to the worst in Canadian history outside of COVID means being just another Liberal, he's just another Liberal. If giving Canadians the worst food price inflation in the G7 is just another Liberal, he's just another Liberal. If doubling housing costs so that an entire generation can't afford homes, he's just another Liberal. If driving 2.2 million people to a food bank is just another Liberal, he's just another Liberal. Isn't that why this just another Liberal won't stand in the House?
Minister of Jobs and Families.
Where is he?
Okay, let's try this another way then, Mr. Speaker. If being Conservative means voting against hungry kids, then I guess he's just another Conservative. If being a member of the Conservative Party means voting against workers, trades, GST tax credits, tax on fuel, doubling down on...
Can't hear, sorry, can't hear.
Fantastic. I'm telling you, this is finally becoming the question period I've always wanted. You know, Pierre is great. The problem with Pierre is he was before under the Conservatives. I mean, under the Liberals, the last Liberal rendition under Trudeau. They wouldn't answer the questions, and they took his slander, he's really good at it. His slander at them, and you know what I mean. It is gentle. It's Canadian. It's not over the top. Usually, sometimes under the table. It's like, oh my god. But that, and then now it started with one of the House leader, and then now with them going back and forth, it makes for so much better of a show. And then the better argument can win, because then they're both talking about the same subject. And look at how the House is getting into an uproar. Poor Speaker. I like this Speaker. This Speaker, I think he's been one of the... He's been one of the best speakers we've had in a long time. He's been a little bit funny, not overly funny. You know, he could add more humor. But no, you know what I mean? I'm just thinking of the joke part of it. But no, as his job, he's done an excellent job. And his humor it's very tasteful, you know. It's good. And he's kept the House, mostly in order, but that, you know, he may have more troubles as time goes on, of course, right? You know, keeping the House of Commons in order. Well, let's watch this. Like, subscribe, comment. Thank you for watching. The two of us that are here. That's according to my
moment. I swear, I can't hear. At some point, I can't hear. So the honourable member may continue. The honourable member may continue.
There's a lot of Conservative voters out there, even in my own riding, Mr. Speaker, who come up to me every single day. And you know what they say to me? Keep going. Keep fighting for our workers. Keep fighting for our kids. Keep fighting for our families. That's why I'm proud to be just another Liberal.
Okay, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition. I'll just let it calm down a bit.
From imaginary conversations with that minister to illusions from a prime minister who hides under his desk rather than being accountable in this House of Commons. You could cut through the Liberal arrogance with a knife, Mr. Speaker, but what you can't cut is the Liberal deficit. Amazingly, Justin Trudeau left behind a $40 billion deficit. We thought it couldn't get worse, but along came this Liberal Prime Minister and nearly doubled it to $80 billion. Just like he caused inflation when he printed money in Great Britain, he's causing inflation now. Will this Prime Minister, who's been wrong about every single economic issue, learn from his mistakes and reverse this deficit?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Speaker, we will take no lessons from these conservatives. Let me be very clear, Mr. Speaker. Whilst the leader of the opposition is talking down the Canadian economy, Mr. Speaker, the International Monetary Fund said something just last week. Canada will have the second fastest growth in the G7. Canada has the strongest fiscal position in the G7. Canada's attracted a record of direct investment in this country, Mr. Speaker. This is being a liberal in the 21st century. Building a strong Canada, attracting investment, sound fiscal policy, Mr. Speaker. We're proud to be liberal.
Okay. They called him the Chihuahua, but he doesn't look like one now. I wouldn't put my finger near him though. You know, he he was not doing very well under the last whoever was telling them what to do in question period. It was not working, and now that I'm thinking he won that debate, and so did the last health minister. Oh, you know what I mean. Minister win the debate. That's two. For you know what I mean, it's just rhetoric. It isn't the actual numbers of that. But as it goes of who do you think had the higher, got me more oomph, uppity? That's two for the Liberal. That is has very, very rare. The Liberals are doing excellent with their change, and I think they've got their confidence back, and I think they believe more in what they're doing. To be honest,
the honourable member. For
I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea why,
Speaker,
but they've changed
the Prime
their
Minister will mark the first anniversary of his election on April 28th with an economic update. He had promised to quickly resolve the tariff crisis, but it's hitting harder than ever. The honourable member can continue. Thank you. The Prime Minister will mark the first anniversary of his election on April 28th with an economic update. But he had promised to quickly resolve the tariff crisis, but it's hitting harder than ever, with new tariffs on the total value of processed goods. The Bloc has therefore presented its proposals to better support the Quebec economy. First and foremost, we are calling for a wage subsidy, protect jobs in threatened businesses, particularly our small and medium-sized enterprises. Will this government adopt this essential proposal? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to see that the Bloc is proud to see that April 28th will be presenting an update which will allow our country to move forward. Yes, we have been here for companies, and we have a strategic fund to allow to our SMEs across the country, including in Quebec, to have support. Good news, Mr. Speaker. We are seeing foreign exports up. And the plan we have put forward is working, Mr. Speaker, and we're going to continue to build Canada strong together. The Honourable Member for Saint Jean. Mr. Speaker, the tariff crisis highlights many flaws in the system. With Washington's new tariffs, it's clear that a comprehensive reform of employment insurance is needed to cover more workers. And with the soaring cost of living, it's clear that seniors aged 65 to 74 deserve an increase in their OAS. With Quebec sawmills closing one after another, it's clear that we must help the forestry sector in the face of unfair U.S. trade practices. On Tuesday, in its economic statement, will the government finally address these glaring issues? They need to solve them. The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. She's right to mention that we are facing headwinds from the U.S. and with this U.S. president, and that's why on day one of this government, we've been here to support workers in the forestry sector, automotive, aluminum, and it doesn't stop. We're diversifying our markets with unprecedented deals. We've concluded 10 in the past year in trade and security. We are here to help our companies to find new outlets and to pivot. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, the economic update is also an important opportunity to remind the Liberals that the tariff crisis is not the only one we're facing right now. Yes, we have to invest in defense, but there's no reason to cut health care, as Ottawa plans to do starting in 2028. There's no reason to abandon our media or cut public transit. The Liberals are capable of tackling these various crises, provided they stop subsidizing big oil and stop kowtowing to U.S. tech giants. Will they stand up? The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I hear my colleague's tone, and I think Quebecers are not very happy to see that he's criticizing what we're doing, because we are here for Quebecers, including on the health front, and I work very well with my counterparts from Quebec to move the province forward. Thank you.
Member for Thornhill.
Next week, the Liberals are set to release their fiscal update, and the Prime Minister is copying Justin Trudeau's playbook as he burns through more taxpayer dollars, goes deeper into debt, and piles even more inflationary spending on every Canadian family. After more than a decade, none of these Liberals have realized that the more they spend, the worse affordability is for everyone. The Bank of Canada confirmed last week that rising interest rates are directly tied to excessive government spending. So if the Prime Minister won't bother with this place, will he at least call his friends at the Bank of Canada and get his spending under control?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I'd ask that member to table immediately a list of the cuts she would like to make, and we will look into that.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
The high-speed train, Alta, consultants, the gun buyback program. There's a number of them, and we can discuss those at length in the House. But the C.D. Howe Institute also said today that persistent Liberal deficits are, quote, undermining growth and living standards rather than supporting them. The thing that they very claim to do. Every dollar that the Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians. So when does all of that stop, and when is anybody over there held accountable for any of it?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we can believe the Deputy Leader of the Conservative Party, or we can believe the International Monetary Fund, who says that Canada has the best fiscal situation in the G7, has lots of fiscal capacity. And, Mr. Speaker, you know what we're going to do? We're going to use that fiscal capacity to build Canada, to build it strong, to build with Canadian products, with Canadian men and women in the skilled trades. We're going to build projects from coast to coast to coast in this country, and we're going to build it over the objections of that member.
Yeah, they're gonna do it. So yes, now we know. I know. I've been thinking, and he's the House Leader. He's changed it. He's just about to sit. He did a pretty good. He has changed the dynamic of Liberal question period, and you can see the people in the background with their slight smiles compared to before, except Anita Anand is very serious. I wouldn't want to get in that beam of a stare. It looks painful on the other end, but it's more jovial on their side instead of what it was before. Excellent. This is how you do a question period back and forth. The Conservatives are going to have to up their game or find something to continue to, and they will. And that's what opposition party is for. They have the advantage because when you do things, you can scrutinize things with half-truths. You know what I mean? Not lie. Anyway, we go on.
Member for Newmarket,
I don't want to digress.
The CFIB has sounded the alarm on the entrepreneurial drought in Canada for 6 consecutive quarters. More businesses have shut down than opened up, and the Montreal Economic Institute has said that the heartbeat of innovation, job creation, and economic growth is in sharp decline. Small businesses spend about 250 hours per year on red tape that could be eliminated, and it wouldn't even cost this government a single dollar. So will the minister admit that the Liberals' tax and spend approach has failed, and get out of the way so our businesses can thrive?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I share my colleagues' interest for our SMEs in Canada. 1 million companies for many millions of Canadians. I've just done a roundtable, and we are supporting SMEs to prepare them for exports. With a national defense strategy, we have small business support, and the CFIB has also thanked us for the suspension of the excise tax. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Newmarket Aurora.
Mr. Speaker, entrepreneurs need a direct and clear answer. The CFIB estimates that the total regulatory cost of government is $52 billion. Businesses are burning through a collective 768 million hours annually on paperwork. And just this week, I met with businesses that have heard Liberal promises for almost a decade, and they are saying, will the Liberals just leave the starting line, just do something? So will they commit today to cutting their red tape, taxes, and government spending so businesses can actually thrive in our country?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, we are clear. It's part of our support strategy for small business. The reduction of red tape is part of our approach for companies. I don't agree entirely with my colleague and her statement. I consult the reality of these businesses every week, and what we feel is that their transformation that we are conducting is allowing companies to look towards a bright future.
Member for Calgary Skyview.
The Prime Minister claims affordability has never been better, but Canadians know the truth. Food bank use has skyrocketed, rent has nearly doubled, and families are paying more for groceries, gas, and housing. After 10 years of Liberal inflation, everything costs us more. Yet this Prime Minister is adding billions in reckless spending, driving up debt and cost of living. Canadians are paying $3,000 each year just to cover up that debt. When will these Liberals get spending under control so Canadians can afford to live again? Thank you.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, that former failed leader and the missing in action current failed leader love to stand up here in this House and talk about the economy. They've been in this House a total of 44 years and have accomplished nothing for Canadians. In fact, their work experience outside of this House, you could fit it on a Post-it note, unless they embellish it again like the former leader did in 2019. On this side of the House, we have the Prime Minister, the plan. He's going to build the strongest economy in the G7. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna.
When you lease a new vehicle, you get a new vehicle. But when these Liberals lease a spaceport, all they got for $200 million was a gravel parking lot. Now, I'm sure it had nothing to do with the fact that it's in a Liberal riding, or that the Justice Minister's former staffer was the lobbyist for the project, or that a former Liberal Premier is on the company's advisory board, or clearly no Liberal insiders are getting rich at all. Canadians only have one question, Mr. Speaker. Why are so many Liberal insiders getting so rich off of taxpayers on this boondoggle of a lease?
The
Speaker, the Canadians have a question, all right. Why are the Conservatives against rearming, rebuilding, and reinvesting in the Canadian Armed Forces? To invest in space capabilities, Mr. Speaker, including a space launch infrastructure. It's important for Canada to assert its sovereignty in space-based communications. This is one of a continuing series of generational investments to ensure both Canada's security and our sovereignty. They don't seem to understand, Mr. Speaker. 20% of the Canadian economy depends on satellites every day.
Member for Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna.
Get that minister some rocket fuel. These Liberals are expert at paying a lot of for nothing. They've turned a gravel pit into a money pit. A former Liberal MP got $237 million for ventilators that went straight into the scrap heap. A Nova Scotia wind farm tightly connected to former Liberal MPs got a $206 million loan. Liberal insiders are making bank while too many Canadians are at the food bank. Mr. Speaker, when will a satellite be launched from our $200 million parking lot?
Yeah. The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I was saying earlier, before I was so rudely interrupted, 20% of the Canadian economy depends every day on satellites. Whether we're ordering food at our front door, whether we're trading on the Toronto Stock Exchange, whether we are actually now mapping our agricultural products in the production system, whether it's about actually deploying AI for firefighting purposes, we need satellite capabilities. We need secure telecommunications for our Arctic, for our security, for our sovereignty. Guess what, Mr. Speaker? Despite their objections, we're going to build it.
The honourable member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie wrote in La Presse that he fears his government is abandoning any goal of net zero. His Prime Minister is trying to push through another dirty oil pipeline in the West without meeting any of his own conditions. That means without raising industrial carbon pricing, without protecting water, and with weakened regulations on clean energy and methane to appease the oil and gas lobby. So no chance of meeting its own climate goals, Mr. Speaker. If they won't listen to the Bloc, will the Liberals listen to their own colleague? Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, the climate crisis is real. We know this, just like the global crisis. But the only way that we'll be able to succeed in facing it is working together. And for the issue of Alberta, last week I had an excellent discussion about this nature strategy with our colleagues over there. And this dialogue is open. We will be cooperating and learning. And I think it's by working together we'll be able to build a clean Canada. Thank you. The honourable member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, their nature strategy means more pipelines. And rumors are so serious that last Thursday, the member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie said that he had confidence in his government despite its climate stepbacks. But today he wrote, any further compromise not only undermines Canada's climate commitments, but also could cause irreversible damage to human health, clean air, drinking water, and the trust of Indigenous communities. Mr. Speaker, when will these Liberals stand up and stop their leader from destroying the environment? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we think it's possible to, yes, have economic development and respect our environmental commitments. And I'd like to thank the Secretary for her work and all members here who've implemented our nature strategy to protect 30% of our land. And in terms of this question, of course, any project will be done in cooperation with Indigenous peoples. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has appointed a personal friend as Canada's ambassador to Washington, Mark Wiseman. He's not a wise man. He's against supply management. He doesn't respect the French language. He's even the founder of the Initiative of the Century, which aims to bring millions of immigrants to Quebec to weaken the weighting of French. The Prime Minister named a friend to be an ambassador to the U.S. who wants to crush the French language and who's against supply management. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, as the Prime Minister has said very clearly, the invitation should have been done in French. That's unacceptable. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, a friend is a friend, but the Liberals' inflationary deficits are costing Canadians dearly. This year, Canadians will pay $56.6 billion in interest to the Prime Minister's banker friends, $55.6 billion. That even exceeds the cost of Canada's health transfers. The Bank of Canada is clear. High interest rates are a direct result of excessive Liberal debt. During next week's budget update, will the Prime Minister put an end to inflationary deficits? Yes or no? The Honourable Government House Leader. As I've just indicated to this colleague, we are open to receive any suggestions for cuts from the opposition members, and we could study them. The honourable member. They've already taken many of our ideas, Mr. Speaker, but the Liberal Prime Minister has completely lost control of public finances. He's added $90 billion in new spending, and now we're paying $55.6 billion a year in interest on the debt. That's more than the GST brings in and more than health transfers. That money doesn't go either to patients or families, and every family is already paying $3,300 a year in interest alone. And next week, with the economic update, will he change course or condemn Canadians to pay even more for this Liberal spending? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, we're somewhat perplexed. Are we talking about dental care that they call an inflationary spending, or is it the school food program or support to our workers and Quebec industries who are suffering from the U.S. headwinds with this trade war? What are these? What is this inflationary spending, and what cuts would they make? Could they table these cuts to detail them specifically to know what inflationary spending that they would like to debate here in this House?
The Honourable Member from Mégantic-L'Érable-Haute-Binière. Mr. Speaker, $90 billion in new spending. The list would be too long to enumerate in 30 seconds. The Liberal Prime Minister may well say that everything is fine, like he did on the 25th of March, but the facts tell a different story. Federal spending is at its highest level since 1996, and two-thirds of new spending isn't even being used for investment, but simply to keep the machine running, the Liberal machine running. More debt, more inflation, and rising interest rates. Even the Bank of Canada says so. Every dollar wasted is a dollar less in Canadians' pockets. When will this Liberal government finally get its spending under control and give families a bit more breathing space, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Government House Leader. Once again, Mr. Speaker, perhaps a multiple choice question. For the Conservatives, is it $6 billion for the Canada childcare benefit? $400 million for feeding children at school? Is it an inflationary spending to have a grocery and essentials benefit? $3 billion for workers? OAS, $7.5 billion? Can they pick and choose which ones, for them, constitute inflationary spending? The Honourable Member for Côte-du-Sud, Rivière-du-Loup, Katascomique, et Témiscouata. Mr. Speaker, it seems that many people don't realise that it's easy to announce programme after programme after programme, but in the end, it all ends up on the government's credit card with no real limit. Except that there is indeed a limit. A credit card bill left unpaid at the end of the month means interest charges. Ever-increasing spending, ever-growing deficits, and over $3,300 a year in interest for every single family. When will these Liberals finally decide to get their spending under control so that Canadians can make ends meet too? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate my colleague from the South Shore. The IMF has been clear. Canada has the best fiscal position in the G7. The questions from my colleagues are interesting. What is an inflationary spending for the Conservatives? Would it be to remove dental care for close to 40,000 people in his riding? That allows people to save $1,200, up to $1,200 a year? Would it be taking $97 million away from his riding through the childcare benefit? Is it by reducing the salary of the armed forces, as they did for many years? We'd like to know what it is.
Mr. Speaker, Build Canada Homes is Canada's affordable housing builder, and it's already delivering real results. It's working with partners to accelerate the construction of affordable homes across Canada, including right here in Ottawa. In just a few short months, we are already seeing progress, fast-tracking 8 shovel-ready projects in growing neighbourhoods. Can the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure please update this House on the momentum that the partnership between Build Canada Homes and the City of Ottawa is delivering?
Okay, Kamloops Nicola, Thompson Nicola. The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thanks to the member for his question. Exciting news this morning here in Ottawa. I was proud to be at a construction site with Prime Minister and the Mayor to announce those 8 shovel-ready projects. Over 1,100 homes, over 90% of those affordable homes by the Build Canada Homes standard. This is great news, Mr. Speaker. We are building at scale. We are prioritizing projects on the ground. We are building these deep partnerships, in this case with the City of Ottawa, and looking forward to continuing to build that good work. Thank you.
The honourable member for Cambridge.
Mr. Speaker, just 1 year ago, the Prime Minister was telling everybody who would listen that he'd get a trade deal with Americans by last July. He set the deadline. He made that commitment. Now the Prime Minister has surrendered as tariffs on steel double, tariffs on lumber triple, and the tariffs on manufacturers get bigger. The workers and job creators in my community now know that the Prime Minister's promises were more empty words from just another Liberal politician. He says our relationship with the U.S. is a weakness. But isn't the real weakness the Prime Minister's constant over-promising and under-delivering when it comes to U.S.-Canada trade?
The Honourable Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, all these guys do every day in the middle of a trade war is talk down the economy, tear down the country, and we're doing the real work of investing in sectors and building it up. They just want to tear down. Let me ask what they would tear down. Here's a list of projects we've invested in. Northern Transformer, we invested. Conservative riding, they don't want it. Sensor Tech, we invest in Collingwood. They don't want it. Axe Building in a conservative riding. They don't want it. Why don't they listen to their own businesses and their own riding and build Canada strong with us?
The honourable member for Niagara South.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is capitulating on U.S. tariffs.
I want to pause for a second. You know, Solomon here. I'll put him up here for. Solomon, you know, his escrow's giving the evil eye, another evil eye. Someone said something. But Solomon, besides the point, a little bit of name envy. I like his last name, to be honest. You know, Solomon. But his, I want to say, excellence in CTV and CBC, all of his broadcasting experience comes out. And it really shows. He's really good. Like, sometimes you get people that are really good in other avenues, and then they come into the question period, and they're not that great, you know. But he covered politics for so many years. That probably has a huge factor in it. He can pull up the passion from all those years of debating. If you talk politics long enough, even if you're Ice man, you know, you're gonna. You're going to get heated once in a while. Your ice cubes are going to melt once in a while. You know, you're going to be uncubed because that's how good politics are at getting people riled. And this Solomon AI, as far as question period, I think he's doing an excellent job. I think that the whole case of question period has been elevated because the Liberals are the leading party and they're answering it. And I'm like, sometimes they answer, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a good answer. And it makes me feel good. I'm like, yeah, that's good. So I can move on. But when they were answering and non-answers, I was like trying to figure out the answer myself, and it's not good when you can't figure it out. Anyway, back to Solomon, escrow, and the evil eye.
and build Canada strong with us.
MP, escrow.
The honourable member for Niagara South.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is capitulating on U.S. tariffs. Tariffs on steel have doubled, lumber tariffs have tripled, and new barriers continue to hit our manufacturers. Nowhere is this failure felt more than in my Niagara region, where cross-border trade is the lifeblood of local jobs, supply chains, and our communities. While he blames tariffs on a shrinking economy, he fails to show up while Mexico actually has a seat at the table. The Prime Minister is dragging his feet. When will he finally stand up, fight for the 2.6 million Canadian jobs who depend on U.S. trade, and deliver tariff relief, which he promised?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, let me assure the member that we all stand at the ready. Mr. Speaker, Canada is at its strongest when governments, workers, businesses, and industry are all pulling in the same direction. By strengthening our engagement, we're ensuring Canada is well positioned. That's why, as the member is well aware, yesterday we announced the creation of the Advisory Committee on Canada-U.S. Economic Relations. This will serve as a forum for knowledge sharing, expertise, and feedback on all issues. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Fundy Royal.
A lot of times that MP is really sassy. That's why I did the because I thought he was going to give Ali. I don't want to pronounce his last name wrong, so I won't. He's good. He's good in committee. He's one of the more conservative leaning ones. But when you talk about smoking Soleimani. He so you grew up buying cigarettes for your parents. Wow, for your mother specifically. Yeah, cigarettes were just, cigarettes were a thing, that people did. Now, there's something we're doing today. I'm not going to I don't want to criticize today, but there's something we're doing today in the family that are hurting our children. Oh, wait, it's social media. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to point, but the one thing is we always have a thing is that we think we're better than the last people. But the problem is we've gotten rid of that one vice, but we usually, as a civilization, pick up another one. Because this is how civilizations, the demons, the wonderful people of the world, the demons, they're always working. They're working hard. So you're like, oh yeah, give up cigarettes, will ya? Just as fast food is getting 1/10 the price, and drink sizes are getting a new type of sugar, and what are you giving to your, I'm not criticizing you, I'm just saying the feeling, and this is me, I had it totally, because I was reading history 10 years ago when I started it, I did it before, and I'm like, oh, I'm so much better. Then I realized, like, the things that I look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, oh my God, these Romans were awful, but we're awful, Yeah. Salad bar. Am I answering a salad bar dialect? Am I speaking like that? Is that me, you mean?
2028. There's no reason.
Oh, no, okay, sorry. I never heard that one. Yeah, a great debate. Good rhetoric, because this is what this is about. It's about rhetoric. And now we can have I believe, there's leaders we can go to. You can go to your musician. Well, I did when I was a kid, and I'm sorry, there wasn't enough musicians that led me in the right path, right? And I'm not saying they're bad. It was my own, But I thought that they were the leaders of the world, right? Because I was a kid. Stupid. And rock and roll lifestyle sucks, as now, which is wonderful for the young kids. When you see the old rock stars, they pull them out, and you're like, ooh. You can see it. But when we were younger, like you were younger, you didn't see. They hid. After you reached a certain age of musician status, you were never seen again. So you didn't have that. You know what I mean? It was very uncommon, right? Now you see it all the time, and you're like, well, yeah, there is an effect to the rock and roll lifestyle. And then there's the actors, and they're wonderful. They have a very wide plethora, of good, bad, and other. And they could be your leader of it. It's a fiction type. You can do your long-term strategic plans through them, because a lot of movies and television is looking into the future and stuff like that. Not like really, but Or I believe the old ways is you rely on the politician to lead the direction, but it hasn't been the case. And if you look at, because, money, who makes the most money, it's usually who's leading, is what I think. But I think these politicians doing dry subjects, saying dry things, can initiate the lead on the storytellers, the actors, the musicians more. And the whole society would run better that way. But the problem is right now we need to up the game of the politics, through pizzazz and sparkles and this and that, and sometimes all kinds of stuff, a little bit of music, a little bit of jazz, a little bit of rock and fun, to get the people to pay attention to it. And then this is totally theory. They should be leading. And Trump is kind of changing it, but, that's like the American way. In Canada, it would be a much more subdued, and the question period could lead a lot of debate, and it actually has been more so in this country of late. You can tell, and because there's a lot of them, right? There's a few hundred people that are always there. Most of them are older. So they've got experience, and I know this personally. If I wouldn't have followed rock and roll, thinking rock and roll was awesome, I probably wouldn't have been so like, I don't even put on music sometimes, you know what I mean? Experience is excellence. And, and of course, not trashing music. Who doesn't like music? But you don't like liberals? Okay. I personally think that there should be more societal focus on helping the politicians lead. That's my opinion. Instead of only doing which I also do, yell at the screen kind of thing, right? Anyway, sorry. It's just you and me. So I put out these things, and I talk, because I have to for the channel, and it helps my own thinking, and I don't give it all. So if you're going to copy it, I can tell when you're copying it and you're not getting it all. Ask Raylan about that.
We have the only shrinking economy in the G7, and as the Prime Minister dithers, even Mexico is making progress on a deal. Why does he seem to keep wanting to drag this on? Why isn't he fighting for the 2.6 million Canadians whose jobs rely on trade with the U.S.? With millions of jobs at stake, when will the Prime Minister deliver results instead of the same speeches, excuses, and failures?
I wrote a story. Oh, sorry. I wrote a story, and the guy's name was Moore. I did not realize it was a guy in the house. It's a common name. Fundy Royal, New Brunswick. Oh, that's a nice place, too. Anyway, whatever. Try to never use anyone in your at all scope, and he's not obviously anyone to me. But it's actually, I thought it was a pretty good story. I called it a recruiter. I may or may not change it. Nothing to do with anything, which can cast anything. Anyway, bunch of are watching. Bunch are on the other site, no doubt. It's probably lots of people. No one online. Just you and me. Thanks for watching, though. You don't like liberals? Why don't you like liberals? Chris Rosed P67. 1967. Salad bar. Oh, I remember. Pizza.
Mr. Speaker, once again, allow me to emphasize that we stand at the ready. For the past several months, what we have been doing is consulting with the provinces, consulting with the territories, consulting with businesses, consulting with labor leaders. So everyone is fully aware that we are doing as much as can be expected, and we will be acting very strongly. And he can rest assured that we will only agree to a very good deal. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
7 months. It's been 7 months since there's been a formal meeting or negotiation to exchange offers to remove these American tariffs. What's worse, it is now being reported that this is actually a Liberal strategy, a strategy that has led to the loss of tens of thousands of Canadian jobs, the closure of the Brampton auto plant, the closure of steel mills, the closure of pulp and paper mills. This has had a devastating effect on Canadians, and now there are expanded tariffs on all manufactured goods, which will make it worse. What do these Liberals have to say to the Canadians who have lost their jobs as a result of their strategy of delay?
Speaker, we're going to continue to focus on trade diversity.
That was a pretty tough. Normally, that MPC back, he's funny and amusing. I don't think MBS likes this MP. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm just making commentary. I shouldn't. But he normally has some good funniness. Like, I swear, he should have been a comedian, or someone should try to recruit him to be one, because he just has that natural ability. He's discussing harsh issues and getting good chuckles consistently. That last one was, there are a lot of jobs. There needs to be something major to fix this. Hopefully a deal is the answer, that the government doesn't have to do something, that it resolves. I was thinking it's coming, but I felt it was there. We were so close. Let's see. I think the deal's coming, though. All right.
Diversification. 70 million metric tons of cargo, the highest in the port's history. That's more shipments to China, Japan, and South Korea. Let's come to the other side of the country. The Port of St. John's just reported a 30% jump, another historic record. This is how you build Canada strong and open opportunities for workers across the country.
Honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
So the Liberal answer to the tens of thousands of Canadians who have lost their jobs about their strategy of delay is, don't worry about your EI, don't worry about your family, don't worry about how you're going to pay your mortgage, because we signed a free trade deal with Ecuador, which is a rounding error in Canada's GDP. Look, if these Liberals are serious, they will explain why they've decided their strategy is not to negotiate to try and get a deal on tariffs. Tariffs that affect 2.6 million Canadians' jobs whose jobs are tied to trade. Yeah. When will they get back to the negotiating table to protect those jobs?
Okay, he's showing, I got to pause before. He's showing new stripes of his very, very good speaking in the House. Well, it's rhetoric, whether you agree with his points. The Bloc, I don't think, agree with him. The two MPs are like, oh, God. I got to admit, though, I like the MPs of the Bloc that they show up quite. They're you know what? He's got a good, crew over there. But see, back, I see him rising. He just threw a new dynamic to his, which is you have to be a Canadian leader. I believe you need to know a little bit of humor. Harper had humor. It wasn't very often, but he had it. It was there, and he liked rock and roll. He Russian, you know what I mean? It surprised the heck out of you when you learned, but it was there. So, you know what I mean? And he would be mostly considered the most sweater man of the country. They literally told him to put a sweater on to make him look nicer. That's how cold he was. But he had humor, So Canadian leaders have to have humor. That's the first. If they don't, they're probably not going to get in. We're not going to vote them in. It's just funny how Canadians are like that. That's probably one of the best things I love about this country is how our leaders are better like that. They attack each other. But anyway, I don't know. I'm seeing something. Are you seeing something? I'm seeing some kind of a growth, and it's intentional. And that new type of tie, this gray tie, does it do something to your screen? I see black, I see white, and then there's a third greenish red or something when it moves. It's like psychedelic-y. This is the second. It's not just his tie. I think it was MP Brock. Yeah, it was MP Brock. There's a new type of style of tie, and it may do something to cameras. I think it does something to cameras because it's a little bit mesmerizing in a mild way. I'm just commenting it because this is kind of what I do.
Mr. Speaker, what we've said is we won't do a bad deal. What we will do is control our own destiny. We will build. Let me give the member an example. $8 billion to the wing in Goose Bay, a new wind farm in New Brunswick, a new intertie in New Brunswick, a new port in Montreal, a new graphite mine in Quebec, a new nuclear reactor in Ontario. I can keep going, Mr. Speaker. That's how we build Canada strong.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are learning the Liberals spent $300 million on a software program called Prescribe IT. The Liberals promised Prescribe IT would replace fax machines for prescription drugs, but instead less than 5% of prescriptions went through the program. Now the Liberals are quietly shutting down Prescribe IT, hoping Canadians won't notice their money is gone. Given that taxpayers funded a program that they do not own for a service that never worked, my question is simple. Where did the $300 million go?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like the colleague knows, that question was discussed at the Health Committee. The government made this decision to collaborate with provinces and territories a few years ago with Prescribe IT. Indeed, when we evaluated the program, the provinces weren't jumping in, so we stopped the funding.
For Riding Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, $300 million on Prescribe IT is making the ArriveCan look like
pocket change. The Liberals paid Canada Health InfoWay to design the program, who then paid TELUS Health to develop the program, who then may have outsourced the work offshore. The CEO of Canada Health InfoWay couldn't even tell Health Committee how much the government paid him for this failure, claiming he didn't know his own salary. Wow. Canadians got nothing from prescribed IT. So the $300 million question is, who got rich? Here.
The Honourable Minister for Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That is a perfect example, in my opinion, of a conservative question. A kind of a issue. It wasn't too bad of an issue. It was someone who failed to be honest a little bit, it seems, possibly in a Canadian way. And there's money that they're trying to find the spending. That is conservative bread and butter. And every time they ask questions like that, it raises their polling. In my opinion, if you go over the top, you lose some people. If you take it too light, and if it's like nothing, you know what I mean? You don't gain as much, but you gain. That's my opinion of conservatism in essence. The other one, it detracts a lot of, I don't want to say criminals, open people and the feminine side of the vote, female side of the vote. Once it goes too harsh on the crime, you just lose those people. They're like, I don't care. I'm moving on to this. And they're like, whoa, well, but let's talk about it. And they don't even, I've had this conversation, and I'm like, but I can't even talk with you about it. They're like, no, I don't want to discuss it. You're like, oh, okay. So you lose people all the time when you go so far into that justice part. It's just, you can still hold that point. It's just something that was a great point. Conservative, boiled down to perfection, I believe. Conservatism. Yeah, in Canada, of course. But, let's see if she has a good answer.
Like they know full well, the program was implemented with provinces and territories, so the money was spent. That said, health professionals didn't use the program enough to justify its continuation, and so we terminated it.
The Honourable Member for Red Deer.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday it was revealed that Canadians paid over $275 million on health care for 130,000 rejected refugee claimants in the past 10 years. When bogus refugees and scammers are benefiting from a health care system they don't pay into and are receiving additional care that Canadians don't, like vision care, counselling, home care, and physiotherapy, something is wrong. When will the Prime Minister put Canadians first and stop scammers from taking advantage of our system?
Immigration, refugees, and citizenship.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The cost of health care for asylum claimant is tied to volumes. The good news is the asylum claims have gone down. If you compare the first 2 months of this year to 2024, it's gone down by 2/3. That's good news for Canada, and we will, with C-12, continue to reduce those claims. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member for Red Deer.
Mr. Speaker, 6 million Canadians without access to a family doctor will not be lectured by these Liberals, while their own tax dollars are being abused and they can't get the proper care they need. The fact is, non-citizens whose asylum claims have been rejected have no reason to be in this country and should not benefit for better health care than Canadians. When will the Prime Minister admit he's lost control of immigration and stop letting scammers treat Canadians as a walk-in clinic?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. That program that member speaks about represents 0.2% of the total health spending for Canada. I think they better get their facts straight and stop fear-mongering off of the backs of people that are vulnerable and that need to be protected. We will continue to do what is right for Canadians and what is right to protect Canadians and everyone in Canada. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member
$29 million to the Strategic Response Fund to advance regenerative medicine, including innovative cures for diabetes. Can the Minister of Health tell us how this investment will drive innovation in diabetes research and improve outcomes for Canadians living with diabetes? Thank you.
L'honorable ministre de la Santé.
The Honourable Minister for Health.
Thank the member for her leadership on diabetes. We can't build Canada strong without healthy Canadians. Investments like these show our commitment to building a more resilient, modern, and sustainable healthcare system. Thanks to our investment, we are helping create approximately 400 jobs across the Vancouver region, which is great news for the economy and the people. Just as importantly, it shows that we want next-generation healthcare solution to build here in Canada. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Oxford.
Mr. Speaker, thanks to the RCMP and CBSA, a massive multi-million-dollar drug lab was shut down near Norwich. In Woodstock, drug dealers pushing fentanyl and cocaine were arrested but then released on bail. Liberal weak on crime, catch and release, and open border policies are destroying our communities. Under their watch, 50,000 Canadians have lost their lives due to drug overdoses. So when will the Liberals crack down on these criminals and protect our communities?
Mr. Speaker, I have good news to share with my honourable colleague. He will be well aware of the fact that we are in the midst of moving forward with generational changes to Canada's criminal laws, including the Bail and Sentencing Reform Act, which will lead to stiffer penalties and harder conditions on bail for the very criminals that he raises in his question. The only question that I have, Mr. Speaker, if the Conservatives, after months of obstruction of the Justice Committee, will finally be collaborative now that they know there is a majority Liberal government who will implement the strongest criminal reforms we've seen in years, with or without their assistance.
The Honourable Member for Oxford.
Mr. Speaker, the police are doing their jobs, but it's this Liberal government that's failing Canadians. They promised 1,000 new RCMP officers, 1,000 new border guards, but they failed to deliver them. The AG says that in Canada, we are short 3,400 RCMP officers. Meanwhile, illegal guns, illegal drugs keep pouring across our borders and into our communities. So will the Liberals stop recycling their speeches and finally act to protect Canadians?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, we've implemented the strongest tightening of the Criminal Code of Canada ever in the history of this Parliament. We're putting forward legislation that will provide law enforcement with the tools they need to catch drug traffickers, Mr. Speaker, but the Conservatives have delayed many of these tools. Lawful access, Mr. Speaker, should have been passed months ago, but finally now, Mr. Speaker, it's at the committee stage, and I hope the Conservatives listen to law enforcement and provide them with the help that they need.
The Honourable Member for Saskatoon West.
Mr. Speaker, for years, residents and businesses in Saskatoon West warned the Liberals that the drug injection site was creating chaos and disorder in the community. The Liberals approved and funded the site even though it was within 200 meters of a school. Now, the whole operation has collapsed into bankruptcy and closure. That should be the end of this failed experiment. Saskatoon needs hope, recovery, treatment, and safety, not a new license for the same disaster under different management. Will the Minister of Health give the people of Saskatoon West a clear answer today and promise that she will not approve a new drug injection site in Saskatoon?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like my colleague knows full well, there's not one single solution. However, there are supervised injection sites. The federal government responds to the needs of provinces that operate these supervision sites. We don't pay for them directly. I'm working with Saskatchewan to see how we can organize ourselves on this file. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Laval-les-Îles.
Mr. Speaker, on March 12, in response to the government of Lebanon's urgent request for humanitarian support, the government of Canada announced more than $37.7 million in funding to provide critical assistance in Lebanon, including food, medical and health service, shelter, and clean water. 1 month on, could the Secretary of State for International Development government update the House on the impact our humanitarian assistance is having on the ground? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good question.
The Honourable Secretary of State for International
Mr. Speaker, Canada's humanitarian assistance is making a real difference on the ground. Through trusted partners, we've helped provide nearly 5.7 million meals to families in need. We've supported emergency medical assistance to almost 16,000 patients and health services to 35,000 more. We're helping 40 primary care health facilities across Lebanon stay open, improving access to essential medical care for the most vulnerable. Mr. Speaker, these are just a few examples of the life-saving support that Canadians are helping provide. For families fleeing violence, facing displacement, hunger and loss, it makes a real difference, and it's something Canadians can be proud of.
The Honourable Member for Central Newfoundland.
This Liberal Prime Minister bragged about his deal with China to remove tariffs from Canadian seafoods. 49 seafood products were subjected to 25% Canadian tariffs. But this government secured exemption for only 2 species, and only until the end of this year. Harvesters and plant workers that rely on Chinese markets for turbot, sea cucumber, whelk, capelin, geoduck, shrimp, and surf clams are reeling from these tariffs. Right. So when will these Liberals secure a real, lasting relief from Chinese tariffs and stop failing the Canadian seafood industry?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, China is our second largest trading partner. In our trip in January, we unlocked billions of dollars of opportunities for our agriculture and seafood sector. That includes more canola to China, more beef to China, and more seafood to China. That's over 500,000 workers being supported by trade with China. We'll continue working with our Chinese counterpart to unlock more opportunities for more workers across the country. Nice.
Honourable Member for Vancouver East.
At a time when gas prices are skyrocketing, the Liberals are quietly slashing $5 billion from promised transit funding to local governments, all part of the Prime Minister's cuts, funding that cities rely on to keep people moving and to fight climate change. That means fewer buses, delayed projects, and higher costs for commuters. Why is the government abandoning working people and municipalities when they need support the most? And will the Prime Minister reverse these reckless cuts in the spring economic update and reinstate the promised stable long-term transit funding? Yes or no?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the member for her question and her concerns about public transit. The good news is that we have expanded the opportunities for funding on public transit, not only from the Canada Public Transit Fund, which is the first permanent dedicated public transit fund in Canadian history, but also the Old Community Strong Fund, which is $51 billion of funding for infrastructure, communities across Canada, all of which is eligible for public transit funding. So we have grown the pot, much more larger for public transit. We intend to be investing aggressively, working with communities to deliver that public transit.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Last election, the Prime Minister promised to protect pharmacare and sign agreements with all provinces and territories as quickly as possible. Despite those clear commitments, his government has failed to sign a single agreement. And this week, PEI's health minister revealed the Liberals' plan to scrap pharmacare entirely when current deals expire. Will this government provide funding in the spring economic update to protect pharmacare and expand it to all Canadians as they promised, or are Liberals breaking their commitment to public pharmacare?
Hear, hear.
L'Honorable Ministre de la Santé.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to repeat something that I always have to repeat when we talk about pharmacare. The government is always committed to talking with provinces and territories to see how we can better support Canadians in healthcare based on their needs. With regards to Prince Edward Island and the article to which my colleague has made reference, these are programs that will end naturally in the next few years. So the government has cut nothing. Quite the contrary. I'm working with the province of Prince Edward Island to see how to better support them in healthcare.
And that brings an end to question period for this Thursday. I will give.
Okay. Yeah, I'll let him exit.
Give members a few.
There we go. Bye. Okay. Yes. China is. You said that China is not the second largest trading partner. Incorrect, Christina. It is the second largest trading partner by by a very, very distant second. Though the next one below that is actually pretty far. So it's like 70 and then 20. They're pretty high. And they're a trading partner because we buy from them a lot of their goods and we sell them our raw materials, wheat, things like that, corn and stuff like that, our bulk, right? Which you don't, if you're an average citizen, you don't really see that. It's not a part of our, you know what I mean? But we buy a lot from China from our materials. I remember the first time I bought a little plastic thing, right? And it was like, yeah, that was the cheapest one. I couldn't believe how cheap it was. I bought like $20 or something, and it was like $3. I was like, holy crap, It's fantastic. And they've been doing that for a long time, and they've been doing that from product after product after product after product. Started with a little bit of plastic and toys and crap like that. And now they're into TVs, and they're trying to start their own jets. I don't think that's going to happen, to be honest, that they're going to actually have any jet fuel companies that are worth anything. But battery-powered ones, yeah, China's there. BYD, as everyone knows, I'm very, very pro-Canadian over every other country in the world, to the point where it's probably problematic. But I love the country. I love the land most of all, and I like the general attitude of the place, of, how it looked in the 60s. Multicultural, everyone doesn't really care what you're from. We all kind of are woodsy in our own way, and we have a lot of space, so we have tolerance. It's a great thing. Love the country for that. It's hopefully continues, but when it comes to trading with China, we've been rolled over quite a bit. Trading with the States, rolled over quite a bit. A lot of countries rolled over. But that's changing, as I think the tariff thing has woken up the government. It's taking way too long. I want it done now, like everyone. But I think that it's going to initiate the government. I'm praying that this government, if anyone's listening, they make a company, a Canadian automotive company. That's it. You know what I mean? Yes, sell to the States, but mainly for Canada and other countries that don't produce automobiles. EV focused, a future focused company. Gas won't be the future. We will not have a flying car where we put gas in, at least to my knowledge, the way not the internal combustion engine, at least. It doesn't seem to give you enough power. Helicopters are very, very complicated. But the little motors, electric, I think that's where we should be pushing forward to help do our own steel, and then dumping that product, just as China did, on countries that don't produce it. Indonesia does not make cars. We could dump our product and really sell to Indonesia, and then the demand will come, and they'll want our car because they like whatever the name is. I think what we should do to get out of the issue with tariffs is starting to sell to our domestic market and outside of the state, but first to the domestic market instead of always bringing in. That's something that, if this deal doesn't work, that's what I think they should do, right? Because they're like, okay, fine, your American companies don't want to come in here. Well, then we will not hinder your wonderful American automotive companies, because they're great, and they're the ones that are going to be building great. And I'll go back to BYD. But in the future, going forward, we're going to put a lot of money into our own tariff, taxes, and tax breaks and stuff like that, into helping a Canadian, most likely conglomerate company, form into something international. We have the expertise. We have all this thing. That's, I think, the biggest thing that they should put on, because we buy as many cars as we sell. So we're a fair trader. So we have all that to stand on. All the other talk about it is really it's about other countries. Canada, about 3 years ago, there's major changes, but it's always been, we've been fair with our trade, because we have a large buying demand. Now, when you I recommend you go look at like what BYD is. Yeah, 72%. China 4.6%. Oh, okay, you're right. Hybrid, nah. Yeah, hybrid is the new ones. Christina, are getting 800 kilometers on a charge. I'm not talking about the American ones. I'm talking about the Chinese one, the BYD. There's other companies, but BYD, build your dream. It's 800 kilometers on a charge. Why do I need hybrid? Like 800 kilometers? Like, and then you can get quick charge? You know, like they're there. They've literally made it there. Now that's the higher end. You're looking at a $40,000 to $50,000 vehicle. You know, up to 80. But 500, 400, that's pretty good. 400 is about what a Golf diesel gets. A Golf diesel gets about 400 kilometers on a tank. So if I'm getting 400 kilometers on a charge, well, that should be pretty close. Pretty close to good. Yes, it will also be a headache for traveling. If you're a long distance traveler like you do a lot, you know, there may be a little bit of work. I imagine to find those charging stations, but that's changing by the minute. Like, yeah, that's okay, Christina Rose. It isn't. It is not. Okay, anyway, we're done talking. But that's okay. Rose, Christina. What was that guy's name? He had a girl's name. Courtney. That's probably who that is. Courtney? Anyway, so that's basically is ways forward. This idea that oil and gas it's just silly talk. I know. Hey, if I had all of my money invested in oil, I would be talking like a commercial also. But I'm not. I'm just an average person looking at it, and it's like, well, you know what? Oil is great. It will be in the future because we're going to have plastics, and there will be bulldozers that'll have bulldozers don't break down. They last a long, long time, so they will be using gas and diesel. For a long time going forward. But like the one guy said, he's like, I went to a gas station, and he goes, I felt like I was in the Stone Age. Like, it's true. Think about it. If you have a chart, just like go back to, and I love these Coleman lanterns. They had the heat part. Go put a Coleman lantern. Turn that Coleman lantern on. Pump it up. And then change that to plugging it into a chargeable battery flashlight. It's like, oh my God, you're gonna put the gas in, put that little bag on it, put the elastic, pump, 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 pump. Hopefully you light it. You know, don't burn yourself. Like, and then it runs out of fuel. Oh, you hit it. The net is broken. All of these issues don't happen with electric, low maintenance. That's a problem. It's going to be less work. But most things that happen like this. But gas is just, I don't know. I'm not going to argue with you. It's just, or even debate it, because it's just obviously people who have interest in the oil business, and that's understandable. They're gonna be selling the oil to countries that are developing for a long time. BYD is bad for combusting spontaneously. Yeah, it is. It's very calm. It's build your dreams. It's awesome. If there was an outage, how about sunlight? Wouldn't that be better? Wouldn't that be most reliable? Then again, if we don't have sun, what do we use? Nuclear? You know, like nuclear ain't good. The best is actually has been most reliable is hydroelectric power. Hydroelectric power doesn't have as much people behind it because there's no companies behind it except the companies that build hydroelectric dams, and those companies are very few, and they have lots of work ahead of them. They have work around the world to building dams. Dams is the most 50 years in the future. This fusion thing, which is, I don't know if it's going to be good or if it's going to be horrible, but it's coming. It's going to produce the Tokamak reactor, ITER, I-T-E-R, look it up. If the 50 years we got hydro, wood is the cheapest source because inputs and outputs. The cost of water is free. The cost of expelling it is nothing. It's free in, free out. Now, there's a little bit of cost of maintenance duties and stuff like that, but it's very small. Small amount of workers that run into a plant, into a hydro place, everything about it. Then there's nuclear. Nuclear, you got to buy the fuel. You got to get rid of the fuel. And then it lasts 1,000 years. And then the potential of all kinds of problems and cracks and all these things. It produces a lot of power. It's got, you know what I mean? It's a stopgap, I guess. But it's not good. It's awful. It's really, really bad. It's bad for the environment. There's nothing really, really good about it except it's cheap. It doesn't immediately pollute the air and the environment. And, now with these new ones, they can be a little bit quicker. But before it wasn't. We've had, and I just figured that people would be against nuclear more than they are, as we've had enough nuclear problems. And we seem to be having more smaller groups and rogue nations that would do something like against stuff like that, more than we had before. Like, I would not suspect the Russians would sabotage our 3 Mile. I don't think they would have, the Soviets. They would have bombed us into oblivion, but I don't think they would have sabotaged where the groups that are happening, around the world. I won't even mention any of them. Yeah. So hydro's got a lot of problems. Security you're going to have around it. Nuclear. But it has its avenues. Then there's natural gas plants. They can be built within a year. It's really quick. We have a lot of natural gas in this country, so it's probably the longest lasting thing. But real, like, petroleum fuel, bunker fuel and all that stuff, for power plants, it's problematic. There's a lot of soot that comes out of them. I worked in one, and a lot of soot, a lot of work, a lot of like harmful chemicals and stuff like that is required. And we used to be able to like work industrial work in private, but that's not the case anymore. There's environmentalists who get everywhere now. You can't use these really harmful chemicals with your employees anymore without it getting out. I'm not advocating for anything like that. And I'm saying it was sinister. It was just, this stuff works. Let's use it. It's really harmful, though. Yeah, but it's industrial, right? So I don't know. Canola. Actually, Obama brought something up when he was in, and I would have voted for Obama for the first round. That's for sure. That he had a really good campaign. It was nice. I remember seeing him in the park. I think it was Chicago. It was wonderful. But he had algae, is what he said. He says, algae is the future of oil. Canola? No. Canola. Plant-based will have a place. You know what I mean? Hey, if there's a market, right? But this algae, what they do is they have these pipes. They put it in like water and pipes, and basically glass pipes, plastic, whatever, glass. And they pump water through it constantly, filtered, like with a little bit of nutrients, with a little bit of light. And this algae grows like mass, and they just squish it back down, and it produces quite a bit of oil. Well, there's more to it than that. I'm simplifying it, of course. But this has been about 20, 25 years they've been working on this algae. And they're getting closer. So the algae, I think right now, you may be able to get, like, if they were to like really kick it on, put real investment into it. This plastic, you can get plastics. And plastics are made in China right now. So you're not going to get the big innovators doing it. But we have to wait for the Chinese to do it, because the Chinese make all the plastic stuff that we buy. Like 99, it's so high a percentages, is unbelievable. We don't do that preformed plasticking here very much in this country anymore. It's almost gone from the country, which is mold injections. There's a lot to it. I wanted to go into that field. I should have, but this algae you can make oils out of, and there's other types of plastics that from trees, and those aren't trees is pretty harmful because it takes so long for them to grow back. But that could work as well. And other types of plants. Like you said, canola. Canola is, you're right. I don't know why I said no right away. I just didn't understand that word. It's plant-based products for plastics is probably going to be a comeback. When we actually have some kind of, well, China has to do it, or we have some kind of tariff on plastics made from petroleum. But I don't see us doing that. Maybe Europe would be the first country or like place to do that. Natural gas, yeah, for heating and stuff like that. But if you've ever been to like a place where it has electric heat, it's like so simple, it's so small, it's so easy, and it's like no maintenance. It's not like an oil burner. If you're in the East Coast, you got an oil burner. It's a different story. EV mining is way worse. Oh, it's horrible. Mining right now is controlled by the CCP, who are not environmental. They're trying to break into markets and learn the game, and they've learned the game, and now they're innovating it down to in many cases, not always, in many cases, more environmentally sound ways, practices, and stuff like that. It's getting better, and China's holding the most of it. And now we have a bunch of new ideas. Lithium, it takes a lot, it takes a lot. But the thing is about it is it's up and down, and it's an up and down industry. It's, So the industry is basically, it goes, right? You get the stuff, and then it gets into the system, and they recycle it. Then they only need to add a little bit as it goes, right? Because the recycling processes are in place. So the mining at first to initiate is going to be a mess. You're right. I could deny it, and then I would be lying, and that's wrong. And so, yeah, that's a huge factor. And though after time, it'll go forward. Yeah, environmentally sound, 100% no. But it's the future, because we won't get flying cars with gas engines. At least that's I've never, Yeah, the hemp housing, toxic critical mining industry is yeah. Oh, they make canola oil fuel. Oh, do they? So, see, they I know they make a byproduct in Ontario. They have a product company. Yeah, hemp planted detoxified land. Ooh, that's kind of scary if you smoke hemp. Oh, you don't smoke hemp. No, yeah, you're right. The hemp housing, we're I believe, after this, like what we had, I believe we went to a culture war, which was a digression to the 10th degree. But really, what was happening is the AI is going to help us get into the modern age where we're going to be able to live a lot more guilt-free. We're not going to have to smash eggs to make omelets every day, Is my hope? It's not hope. It's a strategy, and the strategy, I know it's coming forward. There's going to be problems, but this is the best part of the future, I believe, is that there's going to be cleaner, better ways. And my hope is the one thing is, yeah, Canadian hemp was known as the best hemp because of our climate. Manitoba hemp seeds are really good for you. There's so much things. The psychedelic has so much. This is another one. The psychedelic. I'm not advocating for any of that stuff. I don't touch that crap. I did it a couple times with my cousin in high school. And I guess more than high school. I never call it never after that. But this new psychedelics, Bioptics or whatever the hell the name is, I don't know. It's some psychedelic, and they say it's not out of Wapiskat. It's another one, and this is 80%. So you take it, and it brings you through your past. You go through your past, and apparently it's like really, really bad. So all the traumatizing things that you've gone through, and why you did this, and why you can't talk about it, and why everyone knows about it and they can't do it. All that stuff goes through your mind apparently on this stuff, and you need to be monitored. They have to keep cloths on you, and it's problems. You go through, apparently. And 80% of the people have lose their addiction, their major addiction after it. And the people in the study that lost 80% lost their addiction, or whatever else you call it, losing your addiction, were basically called hard cases. People who tried other things for over 5 years to a decade, whatever, trying to get off and hadn't. And so they tried this. So they're not like, well, maybe it's Tuesday, I'll stop. Not those people. They were dedicated folks. And so the opioid epidemic will be quickly over because most people, and I don't know if this is true, but I want it to be true. Most people who are doing the drugs that much, it's because of their addiction more than them wanting to do it. It's that, they're having troubles in life and this and that, and it's not that bad, and and this stuff gets you the hell off that shit. And I think that's a great thing. And with all of these things, major things, and they're snap your finger things. 80%. 80% after doing it once. So one day, you're I don't know, daily user of horrible stuff. The next day, you don't touch it ever. You don't even want to even deal with it. That's rapid change. You don't see that kind of change. And with AI and the chips, and no one's talking about it. I know. They don't like to do it because Biden and the Democrats and the Republicans. But under Biden, he spent a lot of money, loads of money, initiating the CHIPS Act. So getting all these chip factories, these chips are about to be, once they finally factories, it's taking so long. But it's there's no bad reasons for it. It's just the work, and is progressing as it's progressing. And so once these chip factories start opening and America's producing these chips, Trump is not selling them to anyone who wants it. So America most likely will start manufacturing really cool gadgets and stuff. Medical will be a huge one because medical is the most pricey. You know what I mean? You can charge the most for most of the time for equipment. Medical equipment is very, very easy to charge a good amount. And to get technical. So I believe we are about, I hope it's in the Trump campaign. I hope it's next year kind of thing. These chip factories are opening and they're well, we're going to, because the problem is they're going to have all these chips and they're going to be really smart and they're not going to know what to do with them. So this is where the jam in America is going to be. And that's why it's good that Trump is in, because Trump's a builder and he most likely, will do things to help the companies, American or whatever, or otherwise, figure out ways to build things with these new chips. Because, having brain power alone isn't enough. You have to have it into a machine that does things. I do appreciate your positivity. It's rare. Hemp has no THC. Psilocybin, you mean? Like Trump passed with Joe Rogan. No, it wasn't psilocybin. Yes and no. Thank you. I appreciate the comment. I appreciate you initiating getting me to talk. I don't really like to. The psilocybin is they're potentially looking at psilocybin. No, but it was Abigaine. Abigaine. Yeah. Hey Google, what is Abigaine? Drug.
A drug is any substance that
No. Hey Google. Thank you. Whatever. It's time for the drug is. It only takes one treatment, and people are off. I said Abigaine. I think it's Abigaine. 80% are off, whatever they were on. And we're talking hard cases. Second, 90%. 90% in 2 times. But apparently it's very stressing. You have to I don't want to say coddle, but you have to give the person a warm blanket and comfort after it. It's not easy. They've gone through something, but they're done. Imagine this. The opioid epidemic, done in a weekend, right? In a weekend. We can crush the case. Of course, you can get re-addicted, I imagine. But would you the threat of having to go through this drug again would probably stop you from doing it, It's not a horrible drug. It's your personal life. So it's not like a torturous thing, right? This is what happens when you take the drug, apparently. Psilocybin is, they're looking for it for depression. I knew a fella, he was an educated university person, and said, sometimes when I'm feeling unhappy, I take mushrooms. I'm like, what? You're so straight-laced. And he's like, sometimes when I'm feeling unhappy. And it's the biggest proof of happiness is psilocybin. I don't believe, work out harder. But that's, you're right. That they're looking, that I think they're going into next, Christina Roast. But that's where we're at. We're literally at Yeah, he is pretty good at team utilization. Yeah. He's something. He's something. I don't know. Needed, maybe. But it's he's a card. I don't know about the word. Yeah. But that's a great one. This is a great one. We need. I think what is happening with him, him and his administration, they need to get things done. They feel the need to get things done for the worker kind of person, and he's burning it. He's getting it done at the cost of the cost. What's the cost? I don't know, but we're paying it. Like politically, whatever, we're doing it, and that is I think one of the reasons why so many people are, he loses a lot of people. It's hard to keep up with that. They call it exhausting. Abigail, yeah, Abigail. I heard this woman say Abigail when she was Abigail Spanberger, her competitor, when she said, "Oh, she was sounding so nice." I was like, I love that lady. Yeah, Abigail. Yeah, sounds like great. Abigail. I don't know. I don't need it. But anyone who does, and apparently, there's no side effects. None of they're doing it. This is going through. We're going to fear more about it. Or we won't. The media doesn't like to talk about it, I guess. You know how many people are going to lose money from this? All those horrible people that are, keeping these people down from a little fucking baggy. Pardon my French. I don't really have much use for this. And I really don't like this part of our society that pushes hard drugs. And then points to the person that, a lot of times the people that are doing it, it's like that SBC. The ones that are dealing drugs, they look at these people, look at them, they're all junkies. And you're like, you're the one supplying it. You're the one kicking them, keeping them down. So those people are going to be very upset. And those are tough people, tough type of people. Trump's going to deal with them, I guess. Well, he's got Rogan to deal with. Rogan is. I wouldn't want to fight him. We have that retired armed forces member. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they offered him mate. Go jump off the bridge. Who was at committee? Was he at committee? Was it the... No, that... Well... Oh, okay. That's good. Yeah. I have a better one. I have a first answer, and it has to do with hard exercise. The military's known this for a long time. Hard exercise, extraneous exercise, it almost it helps flush your mind. Start with that. You're feeling down. I work out. It helps. And I only get feeling. I haven't got paid in a couple of years. You know what I mean? I've gotten a little bit, but it's not I haven't seen a plumber-sized paycheck in 2 years. It's depressing, and it means shit in the big scheme of things. So you go exercise. But a lot of people go to drugs, and these what according to that study said. Only 20% of people are responsive to these depression drugs. Now, whatever exactly that means, I don't know. But that's what the lady said who had a lab coat on, so she knows. So 20% of people. So 1 out of 5 takes a depression pill. And the beautiful thing about this depression pill, you get to take it the rest of your life. You fucking tease. So 1 out of 5 people taking the drug is actually getting any benefit, and all of them are taking it for life. Whereas this Abigail and also psilocybin are usually one time, maybe two-time use, and you're done for years and years. Trump is hilarious. I don't know if he's that. I don't think he's ready. I think he's ready to have someone else die for him. I think he's pretty close to that, though. I think you know what? This happens to a lot of people. Once you become driven, they get so far driven that, he's driven himself so far that it's he's in the risk zone, and he's comfortable there. Just like everything, you get comfortable in places. And he has, working. There's a lot of people who don't like the future, and they'll always pull back from the future, and they have a lot of power, right? It always will be. I think that the best way is and there's a lot of times in political ways. This is I'm talking too much, but this is my last point. When this is an important point to me, and this boils down to my almost essence of belief. I believe that every answer has a win. Everyone can win. If there's a problem when there's like 3 losers and 2 winners, there's a way we can get them all to win. Everyone. Every single time. The math can work. The problem is this is going to take a lot of thought and sometimes a little bit of take. But when a company say, I'm going to use a fictitious thing, there's an energy source that is no longer good. And that energy source is being replaced by something cleaner, better, safer, and has more uses. Can expand the technology, right? Well, you can as a politician go, okay, we're going to destroy that old industry because it's horrible, it's harmful, it's bad to the environment. We're going to do everything we can to close them down. Or my method, I would think is better, is you give them, you make it stringent environment, you make things cleaner and everything, but you give them every single possible political regulation and everything possible, like everything. I mean, to their employees, families, everything to help them go from this, whatever they were doing, to selling the new energy, to move into the newer, cleaner. And so it'll be the same company. They're just doing a different thing. Instead of having the fight, which I've seen it happen with I watch politics, when they go down to close a business, the business, like a life, it's a life. It really is a life. It fights back, even if it's like everyone wants it. It's better just to help that company, because it didn't start out bad. It started out, you know what I mean? It's not doing something illegal, right? It's a regular company doing something that society thinks maybe we should move forward, and the politicians do it. Well, help the company move. Help their investors move from that. Not close that company's doors. Help them move. That's where I think where we have to go. And then you don't have the fights that we're having. That way will cost money. Or lost revenue. Most likely is the best way, I think, of doing that. You just let them write off everything to go into the new market. Say, hey, you guys can be the leader in it. And we can maybe help you with research and development into this new avenue. That's what I think, instead of closing down people's doors. Yeah, I don't know. But there's a lot better ways of happening with this country than the smash and move. It's, I think, coarse with a cookie. A healthy cookie. It's got to be oatmeal, low on sugar, low on fat. So it's a good thing, and or move into a new industry completely, and to say, hey, and if you're going to continue, if you want to fight us, first you can do that, and then you can play the other game. And you're like, okay, first we've given you every avenue, and you're putting out advertising, and you're putting out this, and you're funding other politicians against us, and it's slowing us down. Well, now we're going to send you a letter. We're in Canada here. I don't know what duality you mean by the good and the bad. I think it's just pushing things it's a win. Boils down to a simple fact that there's a math on every single equation you run into, that if there's two sides of something, you can get them both to benefit in the equation. When there's a winner and a loser, you can change the equation and they both win. That is my belief, and that's like the deepest core belief, and I found it to be true many times. The numbers, the onion gate, many things in my life. I think all the good things in my life boiled from that opinion and belief. It's a belief, and I don't think it's a common one. I don't think many people believe that. I think people believe in winners and losers. They want it, and it makes them feel somehow powerful. And but you know what makes it feel really powerful? When you see three people smiling when they were yelling at each other. That's power. Not one head down, one cheering like a, See ya. Yeah, I've been talking a lot. Have a good day. Thanks. Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good day. I'm going to put on the music here. I talked a lot. But that's the political thing. But this is the only reason I say this one is it's so hard to follow. Because every situation, you're going to take a lot of thought. You can take it days, maybe. Weeks. You're going to chew on it. You have to chew on this little thing. And you're like, oh, we all can win. Yeah. Thanks for watching, really. Appreciate it. Like, subscribe, comment.